Okay, we're here. Yay. I look different, right? I guess I'll wait for people to show up. We're just hanging out today. I got some news. I'm gonna do some exercises with you guys, maybe. Go away. Feel free to say hi. Damn, that was a big drop. Went from 9 to 3 viewers. Wow. Scary translating. Okay. iFat is here. Good morning, Kat. Good morning. Yes. Good morning, chat. That rhymes. You're so poetic. Welcome. Glad to see you here. It's been a while. I think it's been like 3 months, 4 months since my last stream. Did I turn it off? I don't think I turned that off. Hold on. Okay. Yes, I'm wearing pajamas because, I'm an English teacher. So how am I? We can start talking about that. First of all, I'm hating my voice a lot. I'm trying to train my voice. It's very hard. I have a lot of sympathy for you guys. Gendering your voice is a bit different than accent training, but it's a pain. I'm doing pretty good. I mean, there are tough days and there are easier days. I just came out of like a week ago or so. I had a massive dysphoria spell that just like kicked my ass and sucked. Where am I going? It goes this way. Yeah. Sorry, cameras are backwards. My brain doesn't work that way. Okay. That's so weird. Okay. Sorry. Hello, Miss Markov, maybe? Yeah. Hi. Welcome. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm just rambling. I'm fine. Dysphoria hits sometimes, and that sucks, and I just have to kind of suffer through it. And then other days I'm feeling great. I'm feeling pretty great today because I noticed that so I had to I'm all over the place. Back in October, I switched from estrogen pills, to injections. So now I have this lovely vial of liquid that I get to stab myself with once a week, and I don't like that, but I'm more than happy to do it. The pills weren't working. I maxed out on the maximum amount in May, and then my estrogen was stuck at 120. It wasn't going up anymore. So I switched to injections, and now finally it seems like things are actually happening, which is great. Of course, the voice I have to change. That's not going to change by itself, unfortunately. Trans men have the better thing with that because they actually get to have their vocal tract descend and develop and everything more. But no, we have to do the opposite. We have to shrink the vocal tract, which is annoying. But anyway, I don't know. This is an English stream. We're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about you. I have a couple things in mind to talk about. I could just start talking about that, but if anybody has any questions or you want to, say hi, we can do that as well. I don't know. I hope you're doing well, iFat. Feels so weird to call somebody iFat, but that's your username, so. I don't know. This, by the way, this is a tool. We're going to be using this today to learn how to breathe. Believe it or not, it's kind of crazy. All right, nobody's saying anything, so I'm just going to talk about English. Where should we start? So, news about the course. First thing, and I'm doing pretty good, to be honest. Yes, good. Glad to hear it. The biggest piece of news for me, not in terms of the course development, but related to the course, is at the end of the year, I will be having a substantial price increase in the course. Right now, I'm charging $55 an hour, which I don't even see all of that. I see about 40 of it after Italki takes their fees, but $55 an hour. And that's probably going to go up to like $75, $80 an hour, because I feel that the course is finally at a place where I can charge more. And that's still, compared to the industry, like other people who do this work, that's still cheap from what I hear. But if anybody wants to get in at a lower price, what I'm doing with my current students is I'm giving them about 3 months after the start of the year to continue at the same price. So if you sign up for mouth posture lessons before the end of the year, then you can have an additional 3 months of the lower price. If you can't afford $80, then it might be better to get something than nothing, right? So that's just an announcement there. Now's your chance. The window's going to close for the lower price. But it's going to be nice because, like, as always, I'm financially struggling. Good old US of A. About to lose my health care if the can't say that on stream. That would be probably demonetized. If the idiots in Congress, particularly the Republicans, decide that they're going to kill the Affordable Care Act extensions, subsidy extensions, then I literally will not have healthcare. I'll still be able to do my transition stuff because I can go to an online clinic, which is great. It'll be like $100 a month. Right now, I'm paying $224 for health insurance, and if the subsidies are not extended, it's going to go to like $600 something a month, which I definitely cannot afford. So I will just not have healthcare, which is great. There I go, talking about myself again, right? I'm just so self-obsessed. I'm so narcissistic, like all trans people, right? Anyway, I like to mock the transphobes. Do I have to purchase all classes in advance this year, or can I buy with the current price for each of them? So the course, at least in its current form, it's not in a like pay one price and get the course. It's and that's partially because like I'm working through Italki, so it's like a lesson by lesson basis. Do you have a course? Yes, I have a course. It's called the Mouth Posture course. There should be a link in the description to Italki. If you click on that, you can read some things about it. The course description is slightly outdated from how I'm doing it now, which is part of why I'm here to talk to you guys today with some of the new ways that I've organized it and some new details about some things. Like the breathing, but yes, I do have a course. So it's not like a buy one thing and then blah blah blah. It's you go to Italki, you sign up for classes. You can get packages which offer a little bit of a discount compared to like per class basis, but there's like 5 to 10 classes at once that you can purchase, schedule out in advance for convenience. But it's sort of just an ongoing basis because everybody's at like a different spot. Some people learn faster, some people learn slower. And I don't currently have the infrastructure or honestly desire to take it like off of Italki and, try to make it like a thing. Cause then there's also like time scheduling and stuff, which Italki takes care of time zone differences and all that stuff. So, yeah, you kind of just like take the classes, proceed through the course at whatever speed you go through, you get through it. And yeah, but with how the course is currently set up, I had 2 new students yesterday, and not like I don't want to like oversell it, be like, oh, their accent disappeared, but like for like the sound, the basic posture, they're both Portuguese speakers, which is funny, Brazilian Portuguese speakers, but they went from sounding Brazilian and sounding like they're not breathing right and they're kind of like whatever, to pretty much having a perfect American English or near perfect with like decent posture, good breath in the course of like an hour. And so I'm really, really excited with how things have developed and the way that I'm currently approaching, let's say, like the start of the course and as we go through. So yeah, we're going to talk about that. Any other questions while we're here? Yeah, I see a sad face. I missed the sad face. Yeah, probably from the no health insurance. Lucky me, just a poor trans girly. But of course, millions of people are going to lose their health insurance if that's not extended. Because the United States is awesome, and we don't believe that healthcare should be a right. So, water. Okay, so nobody's asking anything, so I'm gonna keep going. This is sure right at the last second. I'm Madonna. Oh, that's cool. I was like, is that an L or an I? I'm Madonna. Hello, FBRU. Oh, you already said something. Hello. And then Aurora. I can't read. Aurora Northern Lights. Oh, that's a cool name. Stay warm and bundle up. Oh, yeah, right. I can actually turn the heater on in here, but I like the aesthetic and I don't want to be too hot. So, you know, it is what it is. Yeah, it's actually supposed to snow here, which is great because I'm in Oregon now and it might not snow, but I hope it snows. It's part of why I moved up here. Here's hoping, right? Fingers crossed. I love the snow. Anyway, I'm loving the cold. It's like 45 degrees every day and I'm just like, oh, it's so perfect. I love it. Anyway, are you still going to be posting on YouTube like the other parts of the course? Yes. I don't have any solid plans to come back to making videos. I would like to get my voice down before I do anything like that, because I don't plan to sound like this forever. It's I despise my voice, and I know it's one of the biggest things that makes me seem, not so feminine. The lighting is terrible in here, but of course my face sucks too. Hopefully that'll be changing. There is more content that I can post. There's more content that I kind of plan to post at some point. Part of why I want to do this live stream today is to kind of like give you guys some more of that like newer information and whatever. So it's at least there, right? Like you have some sort of like reference of like, hey, what has she been doing? What is developing? What else can I learn about this mouth posture stuff? I'm gonna Chalet's here. Yes, hello. One of my favorite students. No, I don't have favorites. That's not fair. Nah, she's one of my favorite students. Okay, anyway. So yeah, there might be some videos posted, but for now, like I'm probably just gonna do some live streams. I don't even know the next time I'll do a live stream. Maybe I'll do another one next week. I don't know. I've been feeling like a live stream mood. I kind of like I'm settling into my transition fairly well, as long as I'm not in like a massive depressed dysphoria phase, which comes and goes. Then I might do some more live streams, but don't really have a solid answer on that. I don't plan to disappear. I don't plan to take the channel down. It's just I don't know when I would come back or if I would like really come back. So you'll still have the channel at least. Like I don't have any plans to remove that. I thought your name was Felicity. It was. I'll come back to that. I don't want to go out of order and be rude to everybody else. Okay, so I said the price is increasing. I was wondering if the current students have to buy the next 3 months in advance before I talk about it. No. I mean, that would be convenient for me, but that would probably be a burden on you guys. So it's going to kind of suck on my end, but I'd rather make it more complicated for me than for you. I'm basically going to have like 2 listings for the course. I'm actually not even sure if that's against Italiki's terms of service. If it is, I might run into a problem. But I'm gonna have 2 listings for the course. One is going to be like, for current students, for the 3 months before the price increase, and then one will be at the new price. And I'll probably have to like label them 2 different things, but they'll be essentially the same course. Hopefully I don't run into any problems with that, but that's what I plan to do. If I run into a problem with that, then we'll kind of have to figure it out. At the very least, if nothing else, when you schedule a class, preferably a package, actually, I don't know if I could do it with a package, but when you schedule a class, I can go in and adjust the price before I accept it. Really a pain for me on my end, but if we have to go that route, then we can do that. So there will be ways to do it without you having to buy 3 months worth up front. Like don't worry about it. Okay, have you watched the new season of Stranger Things? I haven't watched the first season of Stranger Things. I don't watch Stranger Things. I know it's a big cultural thing. I don't care. I never got into it. Your course has no consonant. I think it's supposed to be consonants. Hello, Alex Healing. I'm not sure what you mean by it has no consonants. It might not be listed in the course description. In the last live stream I did at some point in that, I think halfway through or so, I went over the course outline, and we can look at that again really quick today if you guys want. And you'll see that the consonants are in there, like it's not just vowels. So yeah, if you have any other questions regarding that, let me know. But I thought your name was Felicity. Yeah. So the right. This is something that trans people do, right? So we pick a name and we try it out, and then we're like, I thought I liked that, but maybe not. And then we try another name. That's one of the benefits, right? Is like we get to like pick our own name. It's great. Kind of frustrating, but great. And back when I was first starting to kind of realize that I'm trans, but I was still very, very much in denial. It was back when I was like 28. That started the 8 years of hell. Trying to accept myself and wake up from everything. But that aside, the first name that I thought of that I really wanted was Cat. Like not even like Catlin or Catherine or Caitlin, just like Cat. I was like, just call me Cat because I love cats and I like the name and I think it's great. It just has a nice ring to it. It feels great. And then that sort of like faded into the past. And when I, about a year and several months ago now, when I actually finally woke up and accepted myself and realized that I am trans, and I had to start picking a name, I went through several different ones. I started testing some things with some close friends. I landed on Sienna for a while. I really liked that name. But after using it for a little bit, it didn't quite hit. It didn't quite ring. It's like, it's a nice name. I like it, but it's not my name. So my next choice was either going to be Felicity or Catlin. Now, the reason I decided to go with Felicity, the main reason, because I really like Felicity and I like reducing it to Fee. That's really cool. I like that. I love that. It's a fantastic name. I love that name. I almost wanted to make it my middle name, but I like Alexandria for my middle name much, much better, which is in honor of the library of at Alexandria that got burned down. Still hurts my soul. That doesn't matter. So couldn't make Felicity my middle name, but I tried Felicity for a while, and the main reason why I chose that instead of Cat or Catlin is because Caitlyn Jenner, probably the most famous trans person. Sorry, I dropped things. Probably the most famous trans person, at least in the United States, if nothing else. Used to be Bruce Jenner, right? The athlete, and she is a self-hating pick-me trans woman who is a trans medicalist and just an overall terrible person. And actually, the year that she came out and said, my name's Caitlyn Jenner now, the name Caitlyn for like baby names for girls like fell off a cliff. Like nobody wanted to name their baby Caitlyn, which makes sense. And so I didn't really want to be associated with her in any way. Like, I'm already a trans woman. That's already an association enough. Not that that really means anything. We have no association aside from the fact that we're both trans. But It was sort of a thing that made me say, okay, well, let me try Felicity instead. And I tried Felicity for a while, and it was better than Sienna, but it still wasn't hitting. And one day I went to Starbucks and I was like, you know what? They're like, can I get a name for the order? And I was like, let's do Cat. And when they called Cat, I was like, yep, that's my name. It rings, it resonates. I like it. So Cat Lynn officially, but Cat for short. And I just go by Cat most of the time. So there's the story of why I'm no longer Felicity. I guess you could just give coupons to current students and that should work. I don't know if italki does that. If they do, that would be great. I'll look into that. I saw a video that teaches a short I sound. He pronounced I as I. No, that's no. What I would assume, I don't know how experienced this particular teacher would be. To me, that sounds like a little bit of like they're discovering the center of gravity. Because like if I release the is gonna happen. Like if I don't do anything else, it's just gonna go into the because that's the center of gravity. That's part of mouth posture. So if I go and then I relax, okay. No, that's not part of the sound. It's not part of the sound. It's the pull of the center of gravity, and there's something going on there, but that's not the sound. So I would very much disagree with that person. I kind of feel stuck when it comes to my accent, to be honest. Still, bruh. No, I know it sucks that we can get stuck on things. I'm trying to change my voice into like sounding more feminine, and it's a pain in the ass. I get it. Also, the Spanish thing. I've gotten kind of decent at Spanish posture, I think, but it's not stable because I don't practice it. I think I've said this before, but all I've been doing is shadowing. I don't know what else to do, girl. Girl, yeah, nice. I love that. It's always nice to be affirmed. Like people don't understand how much like it's a word, but it's more than a word. It matters. It's the difference between being seen and not seen. Also not really sure about my intonation, so yeah, stuck. I don't know. Yeah, it sounds like the same problems. Unfortunately, I can't really help you with the intonation. I hate intonation. I don't really teach intonation outside of the like special series I made about intonation. I don't really have much to go over on that. Shadowing is great, but if you're still stuck, clearly the shadowing isn't enough. I don't want to say you're doing the shadowing wrong. There's multiple ways to do it. Maybe the way that you're doing it isn't like the way that you need to do it to fix the problem. You can try a different way of shadowing. I don't know. Yeah. Like I like to say, everything works, but not everything works for everybody. So you can find what works. I don't know. Like it's a special thing because, as I said, like you sound great, right? Like I don't have a whole lot to direct you on that. Like you're kind of right there. I'm really excited for part 3, moving from individual sounds to words and eventually sentences. That's going to be awesome. Funny thing about that. I like the way that I laid it out in the YouTube course originally because it's a really great resource. Like you can just like go and like go to like the vowel information lesson, which by the way, there's like more information now than just what's in that video, but not that any of this, the stuff in the video is wrong. It's just extra information. But like you can go to like the practice one for the vowels and you like see the transitions and hear them and, you know, see my mouth move and all that stuff. And so it's a really great like visual and auditory resource. The way that I organize the course now, that comes a lot sooner. Like things are much more sort of integrated and meshed now. And again, we can go back over that if you guys want to do a quick overview of the course structure. And you can see how that's different from how the video series was laid out, which I didn't even completely finish. But I'm also very interested in Southern accents, but I got a perfect. I got a perfect. I was like, that makes more sense. Yeah, the standard one first. Well, yeah. I mean, there's multiple Southern accents. Complicated relationship with the South. But I could do a Southern accent. I usually have a mixed Southern accent, like a little bit of like a Georgia Belle, and then I'll get a little bit of like that Texan sound down there, the Southern drawl. I get kind of a big mix of it. But yeah, most Americans can kind of do a Southern accent, or the general one. You're welcome. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and do this then, guys, because I don't have all day. I have like a few hours, so like we have plenty of time. But when is my next class? Hold on. I think it's at like 6 or something. I had a change to my schedule recently where I took off my last class because it was a little late. Yeah, 6:45 to 7:45. I'm not teaching that class slot anymore. Okay. Back over here. I really wish I did in StreamYard. I didn't even think to do StreamYard because then I can like put the comments up on the screen and stuff like I did before, but whatever, it doesn't matter. Let's go over the course outline. I should be able to share my screen. So rusty. Share screen. Entire screen. Share. Infinite echo. Okay. So you guys should be able to see my screen. I kind of want, can I pop out the chat? I want to pop out the chat. Can I do this? Pop out chat. Bam. I'm a wizard. Okay, now I can see what you guys are saying. So ignore my bajillion tabs. That's the likely ADHD that I have. And there is a reason for so many tabs. Don't worry about it. We're going to come over to, while we're here, I know you guys don't care, but I have a Medium blog, and I have an Instagram where you can follow me, which I don't really care. I'm just saying. I was making, I had like a whole separate channel and stuff. Where am I going? Hold on. I can't do two things at once. I had a whole separate channel and stuff talking about like trans issues. And unfortunately, after a few months of transphobes constantly telling me that I'm a man and to stay out of women's bathrooms and et cetera, it kind of started to get in my head. And oh no, I broke my syringe. And I had to stop making content for my own mental health. Unfortunately, I'm not that strong of a person. My soul is too gentle for this cruel world. But anyway, this sucks. I'm gonna have to use another syringe maybe. This is one of my medical supplies. Okay. You guys still see me, right? Where's the chat? Yeah, you guys still see me, I think, maybe. Do you, when I'm showing you my screen here, do you see me also or no? Because that would be kind of important to know if I'm trying to demonstrate something. So you say now that it sounds like it's that to me. I asked my friend, but he's not sure if it's he can't tell. Yes, okay, good. So yeah, it's kind of lazy. It's kind of fast. But that can happen. Yeah, now that I that's that center of gravity effect. If you get a little bit of an in there, now that it doesn't really matter as long as you're speaking quickly enough. Doesn't have to be super fast, but you can't be like now that it's a little bit weird. Okay. So we have a chat here. Intro phase 0. This is the same. I haven't updated this like at all. I maybe added some more notes, but I haven't updated it since the last time I showed it to you guys. And it's actually like I need to update it with how the course is currently laid out. But the phases, like the general progression of the course is still kind of like the same for the most part. So we're just going to kind of like look at these pieces. So intro phase 0, you guys probably remember the original phase 0 lesson. I don't like that this keeps disappearing. Sorry, that's Discord. I have a Discord now. Yeah, I entered the 21st century. It's a private Discord, but I have a Discord nonetheless. Things was, oh yeah, if you remember the original phase 0, kind of a headache, right? Front, middle, back, throat. Okay, I don't even really do the throat much anymore. That's kind of maybe coming back a little bit. The way that I currently do the course is like all those phase zero exercises, they're very useful. I recommend everybody does them. You should do them. If you want to take classes with me and get some feedback on them, that's fine. I don't emphasize them very much. What I found is more useful these days is if you have an issue controlling a particular part of the tongue in a particular way, the phase zero work, we can go in and do some supplementary work with that. Makes it a little bit easier for people, makes it a little bit more practical of a tool. But I do strongly recommend that you still go through the original phase zero material. On top of that, we have this extra thing here where we explore your native TKU and ah, whatever. And sometimes there's more than one. This is going to get annoying. Maybe I can like, eh, eh. Yay. Okay. I'm smart. So your native TKU, and that's part of the awareness building as well. I get a lot of the same answers. I'm like, hey, when you do a T, what part of the tongue do you use? And people are like, I don't know, maybe the front. I'm like, okay, is it like the tip or is it the blade? And they're like, I don't know. I can't feel that. I'm like, all right, well, we're going to figure that out. And then I'm like, okay, well, what do you touch? And usually people say the teeth because most T's in a lot of languages, they tend to be dental. So I'm like, okay. And then I compare with where our T is and I say, hey, this is going to be here instead. Not to learn the sound yet, but just to sort of get a comparison of how maybe the posture is affecting things, how the articulation is different. And I've had like advanced students, like people who can, they can talk pretty easily. They're coming to me for pronunciation work. They're like, yeah, I just want to work on my pronunciation. They speak the language. And then something as simple as like, where do you put the T sound? They're like, whoa, like I didn't know that. Not everybody, but some people. Like it never ceases to surprise me. So we kind of go through that. This is all like first class stuff. This we don't necessarily do. But if you can identify your native sort of hinge or contact point in your center of gravity, that's bonus points. That'll help us. Not necessary. This, don't worry about. Lots of notes. Don't worry about that. Phase one. Okay. We go into our sound. Is the focus of phase one, just like the original videos, but I added ah. The reason I added ah was because people who were trying to do were doing ah, or they were getting stuck between the two, like ah or something like that. And so we had to figure out how to do the ah in order to separate it from the and then that guy gave us a better posture. So some people run into that problem, some people don't. The way that I'm building the course from the ground up now with the breath, this does not happen as much, which is great, but sometimes it does. And then we might talk a little bit about the H as well. The H is just the voiceless vowel. I have a whole lesson on the H. You can go watch that. But it's basically just breath, right? But the focus of phase one is to build that core basic posture, right? We might do some testing here, make sure that you can kind of get in and out of the ah, the you can do the consistently. It's not about perfection, right? We get good enough, we get a good solid base, and my intuition, my experience will tell me like, okay, it's not perfect, but most people to get a perfect base posture or a near perfect base posture and like a perfect it will usually take at least halfway to 2/3 of the way through the entire course. That's just how things go. And so to be stuck here is not productive. So you have to be good enough. And then once I'm like, okay, yeah, you're solid enough, you have good enough control over the pieces, let's move on to phase two. So we move on to phase two. Okay. Bam. Section one. We have these sounds here. These are all in order for a reason. We build these basic words using these consonants. Done, sun, cut, does, tongue. We might do the second one. Usually we don't. We don't need to. But we do that for practice. There's also scales. Okay, these are literally the linguistic equivalent of musical scales. You do ta, da, na, sa. First sound needs to be good. Second sound needs to be good. Posture should be good. You're trying to hold and stabilize the posture as you go in and out of that sound. This further helps you to stabilize, develop the posture, and to get the sound better. That's one reason we don't get stuck in phase one. We just make sure it's good enough to build on. There's also the reverse, which is usually a lot harder for people. And then, of course, there's the vowel scale. So you go e, right, whatever. I recommend you go slow at first, and then you can speed it up. These are things that you can do by yourself in the Google Drive folder, which I don't have in the description. Should probably have that in the description. Mouth posture. I'll go ahead and just share this here. I'll drop it in the chat for you guys. What am I looking for? Share, copy link. Bam. I need to change the organization of this a little bit, but everything is in here. The sounds, the sentences that we do, a little bit of extra ear training. There's like some extra random stuff in here as well. But where was I? Anyway, there should be a recording, if I remember. There should be a recording for this exercise, and you can just use that. Okay. Then we get to sentences. So once we start subsection B, we're starting to add some other vowels. They're all front vowels, plus the Y will come halfway through that. And we go ahead and start the sentences and try to do these, basic sentences with good posture. They're relatively simple sounds. It's a subset of sounds. We don't even have all the sounds. There's no R's, there's no L's, there's no SH's or U's or any crazy thing. It's literally like not even half the sounds in the language to make these sentences. And people still have difficulty. Do not underestimate, right? Because it's the posture. It's not just the sound, it's the posture and the breathing and getting everything to be stable. Okay. You have to hold things differently. So we want it to be simple. The section C, this adds the A and the I, but it's largely just like more repetition of this sound set. And then we get to section 2. Okay, and we have more sounds. We start introducing a lot more lip sounds. We start introducing a lot more back of tongue sounds, which weren't in section 1. There's a reason, as I said, for every sound in every place in the course. Rinse and repeat, fa, va, pa, ba, etc., etc. More sentences. Okay, a lot of the same work, but with more sounds. Okay, section 3. We get to the R and we get to the L's. Now, the light L uses the same base posture, but it does something no other sound does. It will narrow the front half of the tongue, particularly the front of the tongue itself. It'll narrow it in. Posture's still there. You still have your shape like this. Everything is still the same. Center of gravity is there. Back of tongue is in place, yada, yada, yada. So this doesn't actually change the posture or anything like that, but I group it here because it does that strange thing that no other sound does. It's a little extra difficult, and it kind of goes along with the dark L anyway. We can learn them at the same time. But this is technically just another sound. The dark L, as I've probably mentioned here and there before, the dark L does technically mostly, take over the center of gravity. I also have a little update on how to form the dark L that makes it a lot easier. So we can talk about that if you want. Just remind me. But it'll color things, right? So for example, if I do ah, that's just the ah sound, right? So it has an center of gravity and coloring. Ah is my normal ah. Now, if I want to say the word all, I can do that in 2 ways. I can color or I can not color. You always have the 2 options. Natives kind of just do both. Whatever comes out, it doesn't matter. So if you don't color, you do a regular ah, and then you go into the dark L and just transition between 2 sounds. All, I see it all. Okay. Might be a little clunky, but it works. It's fine. It's hard for me to kind of like do that intentionally because I apparently more frequently color it. But if you color it, what that's going to do is it's actually going to make the ah itself sound a little bit different because the center of gravity is different. So instead of ah, it's a normal we're going to get more like ah, ah. It has a little bit of like that heaviness in it. Like I'm not fully into the dark L, just like I'm not fully in an the is sort of underneath. It's still kind of there. The pressure, the shaping, the tension's there. While I do the it's sort of the same thing. It's not a fully formed dark L, but it's becoming sort of the shape and pressure and tension underneath the and it's pulling the in a slightly different direction. And so we get a slightly different sound. Still an slightly different quality because the dark L is now center of gravity. So then I say, instead of all, I can say all. So the dark L is kind of there the whole time. It would be exactly the same as saying all. It's just different center of gravity moving from sound into whenever that center of gravity is. The R, of course, I did start talking a bit about the R. I made one lesson about the R. That was like the last lesson I made. I don't have any major updates on that, but I do have a couple of little things here and there that we could maybe go over. R takes over the center of gravity and slightly modifies the posture. It doesn't break the posture, but slightly modifies the posture. So for that reason, the R's and the L's are in the last section. We want to have a good base posture before we get here. I have students come to me all the time. They're like, hey, I want to work on the R and the L. And I'm like, that's not what you need. And depending on the student and how close they are to having the base posture, we might start looking at that on the side. But if you don't have a good base posture, it is almost a complete waste of time to try to do the R and the L. Like if you want to sound as native as possible. If you want to just practice the sounds, I mean, there's some benefit in that, but hopefully that's clear why that's important. Laura, welcome. Thumbs up. Yay. And then there's like combinations of like pla, blah, mla, cla, gla, la, right? Sla, zla. This only exists between words. Zl, tla, dla, and la. Okay. There's a lot of this is in my head. Not many people have made it this far. So I just have like some random notes here, but don't worry. That part of the course is essentially done as well. I just haven't filled it out. Okay. That's the overview of the content and the order in which we go through that content, right? We just sort of work through it as you get more stable in the posture, you get better control over the sounds. We move forward. We build on it. Okay. Now, what I want to tell you guys now is one of the big pieces of news, probably the biggest piece of news for the course. And that is why this syringe is going to be important for our prop. So we have this special paragraph. By the way, I also now have a special paragraph for the R and the L. It's not particularly special. It's just kind of one I made up. It doesn't really matter. But this is the basic special paragraph. Now, I mentioned this at some point in the course, and I've used it in various ways for various things as the course has developed. And it really finally found a nice, good home, a nice, good use. It has a couple good uses, but it's mostly breath. Okay. I can cut. I don't know if it'll allow me to paste the whole thing. It's probably too long. Yeah. Wait. No. Yeah. That's 379 characters. Too much. There's recordings for this. I think there's a link in. Is there a link in here to special paragraph? Yeah. There's a link to the document that I was just showing you. Slower speed, normal speed. Okay. You can use it to focus on the posture. You can use it to focus on the sounds. You can use it to focus on the breath. We're going to talk about the breath, and we're going to use these two pieces at 5 in the evening, and I saw a young man, as some basic examples of how we're going to do not just the breathing, but the linking. Okay. I have a whole new, like radically different perspective on linking that doesn't invalidate the old way I taught it, but is sort of a breath optimized way to look at it. And you guys are probably going to find it like super fascinating and useful. It's amazing. Like it's helping my students go from like slightly unnatural sounding to like their rhythm is better, their linking is better, their breath is better. Like it just helps everything come together on multiple levels. And so we're going to talk about that. But before we talk about that, we need to talk about the actual breathing mechanics. Now I have a video where I talk about, okay, we use diaphragm, stomach comes out, blah, blah, blah. I got some updates on that. I have this down to a science now. Okay. It's working very, very well for most of the people that I'm working with right now. So we're going to go over that first, and then we're going to put the linking and see how the breath goes into that. First, we have a couple things here. So IFAT. Also, I've noticed something interesting about the I sound. Okay, maybe it's obvious to you, but I think the I can go from a clear I to barely being there. It's still there, but it almost disappears. So not necessarily the I sound itself, although you can cut the diphthong, something I've talked about before. You just sort of use the first part of the diphthong. But if we're talking about the word I, especially if it's at the start of a sentence, like I don't know, you can kind of reduce it. You can cut the diphthong. You say I don't know instead of I don't know. You can reduce it to a schwa. You can say I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. Okay, it's a little fast, messy, a little lazy, but okay, it works. And if you're really lazy and fast, you can maybe say like don't know, don't know. But that's also tied to like informal speech where you can drop the subject. So that might be part of the reason why. For English learners, the super fast stuff, I just recommend you guys don't pay attention to. Like there's lots of tricks and stuff that you can do in normal speed speech to sound more native. That's great. But a lot of the really fast things were like things that maybe shouldn't disappear do disappear. you don't have to worry about all that. That's crazy. It's weird. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Thai. So like, how would it sound? Like Thai, Thai, like put your tie on, put your tie on, tie on, tie on, tie on, something like that maybe. Where it's like barely even said. I think that's just really lazy speech. Like I couldn't reduce it to an there. I wouldn't say put your tongue. Okay. That's specific to the reduction to is specific for the pronoun I. Or I'm. You can also do it there. You can make it really short. You can cut the diphthong. You can compress it, but it wouldn't disappear. I don't know if I would say it almost disappears. It's maybe a bit much. Maybe just because it's really fast, it kind of seems like it's not there, but it does have to be there. Yeah. Hi Josh, it's been a while. Fantastic French fries. I don't remember the username, or if you changed it, then I have no idea. But yes, hi, and my name's not Josh anymore. It's Kat. So please and thank you. It's not a Southern accent. Oh yeah, it's for the I thing. So anyway, moving on. Things. Yeah. Let's come over to the chat. I can hold on. Stop sharing. That's what I want. Okay. You'd think I'd be able to navigate that very easily because of my classes, but I can't. Okay, I'm gonna close the chat, and then it should go back where it was. Yes. Okay. Good. Now, let's talk about breathing mechanics. Okay, so we're gonna have some steps here, and do we need to do that? Hold on, I'm trying to think. Is that was that part of the evolution of the course, or do I still need to do that? No, that makes it more complicated. Okay. File that away. Now, syringe. Okay. So what you're going to do is we're going to look at this in pieces, and then we're going to build those pieces into like the in piece and the out piece. Okay, it's going to sort of like build, but we need to know what the pieces are first. So you want to make sure you're using the diaphragm. Now, working with people, sometimes I can't quite tell if they're breathing in right, because like, well, it sounds okay to me. If the throat's kind of closed, I'll probably hear that, right? So it's hard to tell if you're exactly using the diaphragm, even if you're working with me. But if you sound good, and I'll be like, yes, that's great. If the throat's a problem, I'll usually hear that. But are you actually engaging the diaphragm? If you don't sound right, then something's not working right. Maybe the diaphragm, maybe the tension in the stomach. We have to kind of go in and diagnose and play with things. Okay, but let's take a look. You like my shirt? Jeff. I play Marvel Rivals, so I love Jeff. He's so cute, especially that one where he's pretending to be a dolphin. I love Jeff. Anyway, and then I have my Rugrats pajamas on because I didn't want to put pants on, and I don't have to today. So anyway, stomach, okay? Diaphragm, stomach. The diaphragm is in here. This is the bottom of my rib cage here. Diaphragm's muscle in here. Okay. The in-breath, you want to say, okay, this is your mouth. This is your diaphragm. Okay. The air goes into the lungs. Apart from English, do you teach how to be more articulate? No. Yes and no. I teach pronunciation, right? Like I teach the full range of pronunciation. I teach you the basics of how things should be pronounced. I teach you how to maybe blend things together and this and that, whatever. Like I don't know if you mean like teach how to be more articulate as in like how to speak properly and enunciate. Most teachers overemphasize that and only teach you that. I teach you real English. Now, if you mean be more articulate in the sense of like speak in a fancier way, not necessarily in your pronunciation, but like to articulate your thoughts better, to have like more complex speech patterns. No, these days I just teach pronunciation. Have you ever played Dead by Daylight? I have. I don't really care. My roommate plays it all the time, like literally all the time. It's a cool game. I just don't care. Anyway, so you pull the air in. The air goes into the lungs. Okay, whether you use the diaphragm or not, the air goes into the lungs. That's what the lungs do, right? Okay. But if you breathe in from your chest rather than from here, which it's hard for me to do this. I have to kind of like not be in speech mode to do it, but like it's kind of light. Okay, if I try to breathe in a lot of air like that, like it feels weird. It'll have a little bit of a higher pitch usually to it too if you're doing that because things. But you don't want to be pulling it in from the chest. Okay, you're going to use the diaphragm to create sort of a suction that will pull the air into the lungs. And you're looking to have a large amount of air come in a short period of time. Now, we know that the jaw should be kind of open, the tongue should be low, the throat should be open, right? Posture, details, blah, blah, blah. We're going to come back to the middle throat in a second. But we know from what we've talked about before, all the stuff up here should be low, should be relaxed, should be open, right? So you don't want to hear like, it sounds like my tongue is high. There's sort of a higher pitch because there's less space and we can hear the air come in a tighter area. We don't want that. Okay, now this is sort of an exaggerated breath in. It's exaggerated. And we're going to practice with the exaggerated one in order to get the basic mechanics. And then once you have a good control over it, you don't have to do it that much. But if you listen to English speakers speak, you're going to hear us every once in a while, like I just did very naturally right there. You're going to hear us take breaths in. You won't hear it in podcasts or YouTube videos usually because it gets cut out because it will start to sound very annoying to us in that like perfectly controlled audio thing. But in real life, we do tend to take breaths in, just not that crazy. And we do it from the diaphragm. Okay, if you're speaking English and you're not pulling air in from the diaphragm and you're not using the diaphragm to produce speech, you're not speaking American English correctly and you will not sound natural. You might sound good, but you're not going to sound natural. Does the word scythe have a voiced or an unvoiced th? Scythe. Get the scythe. Get the scythe. I would say this is one of the words where it could be either or. I naturally go to the voiceless one, but if I say scythe, like that doesn't sound bad to me. There are some words with the ths, like with. It doesn't matter which one you use. You use with or with. It literally doesn't matter. There's some words like that. Most th words don't do that, but there are some words like that. So I would personally recommend unvoiced th, scythe. I recently noticed I do that in Russian too. The breathing, well, I mean, that might be good. Maybe not for your Russian, but for your English. The shark looks very cute. I didn't even realize that. Yeah, it does. I love Jeff. He's the bestest boy. And I have him as a lord on Marvel Rivals, even though I main Cloak and Dagger most of the time. He was the first lord that I got. But anyway, that doesn't matter. If you don't know what Marvel's Rivals is, you have no idea what I'm talking about. I should stream Marvel Rivals. I should. Not on this channel, because that's not what this channel is about, but I totally should. Anyway, breathing. Okay. So you pull the air in. It keeps breaking. I need another one. Sorry. Okay. Apparently it's going to break through the stream here. But you pull that air in. Okay. Everything's low. Everything's open. Bam. Now, when you do that, okay, the next step is I want you to pretend like you're lifting a car or trying to lift a car. Obviously, you can't lift a car, right? Like you go to the side of the car, you grab underneath, right? And what do you do? Like actually do this for a second. Okay. If you're in a public place, maybe not, but do this for a second. Like I want you to experience what would you do? What would you do, especially in terms of the breathing? Okay. So you'd probably, right? You bend your knees, you grab the bottom of the car, you take a big breath, and then, right? Your body wants to get air in, and then it wants to close that air off on the glottis, okay, using the glottis. We can share the screen here. Bam. That's from the last class. This is your glottis right in here, and it's just going to close off. That's how you hold your breath. Close it, air can't come through. I can push, but it won't come through. Okay. And the reason why your body does that is because it knows that if you're going to lift something heavy, it needs some core pressure so that you're stable. Okay. Now, that's not healthy. If you're lifting something healthy, you should breathe through it, right? But that's your body's natural instinct. So we can use that to our advantage because you're naturally kind of using the diaphragm there, or you should be at least. I can't say for sure for every person, but so we pull that air in, and then I want you to lift the car, except don't close the glottis. Keep it open. Now, this might take some practice, but if you do that, now if I do it, I'm going to sound too much. Okay. But what I've noticed, the reason why we do this exercise is because the stomach needs to have a certain amount of tension in it. Okay. If it doesn't, then you don't have enough power. You won't sound clear. You won't sound like, you'll understand what I mean by power. It's a difference between like, and, okay. The volume will be a little bit different as well, but it's not about the volume. It'll sound stronger. It'll sound like you have a bass here. Okay. What was my other thought with that? Sorry. Lost my thought. Ignore my dirty food bowl. I just noticed that was in this frame. That was last night's dinner. I lost my thought. Sorry. 1 second. Let me reboot. Oh, yeah. So if I do it, I'm going to overdo it because my stomach muscle, like my tension here is already developed, and it's hard for me to not do it. But for the sake of demonstration, instead of going, you're going to go, okay, you get lots of air coming out. If you add voice to it, okay, it's going to sound, for me, it sounds tight because again, I already have enough tension. So I'm doing too tight. So if you sound like you're strained, if you sound like it's not coming out, that could be in the throat, which we'll come back to, but you might be overdoing it here. That's probably not going to happen in the beginning. I haven't had a single student be too tight here when they try to lift the car because you guys aren't used to bracing your stomach like that when you breathe. Okay. So you suck the air in. And by the way, also, I forgot, when you suck the air in, yes, the stomach comes out. We're not pushing the stomach out with the stomach muscles. It'll be pushed out by the diaphragm. Okay. Then you get that little tension. Okay. It kind of happens at the same time almost. I'm engaged. I'm ready to lift my car. Okay. Next step. Let's see if we have any comments here. I've heard about it a lot, never watched it. I don't know what it looks like, to be honest. I don't know what I was talking about. I always get tired after, was it maybe Marvel Rivals? I've heard about it. Oh wait, that's the same thing I just read. I always get tired after half an hour or so of speaking. People always tell me to speak using the diaphragm, but I haven't figured out how to do it. Well, I'm kind of trying to teach you how to do that here. So yay, there you go. The candle. Oh, Sergey's here. Yes, hello. We had a class earlier. Yes, we're going to be blowing out a candle, which I know. I'm sorry, guys. I'm pretty sure I have ADHD. I'm going to get tested for it soon, hopefully before my healthcare runs out, my health insurance runs out. Isn't this an awesome candle? Yeah. I'm not going to light it because I want to use it as a decoration, but it's so cool. I love it. Anyway, put that away. Things. Okay, so the next step that we're going to do, so you suck that air in, you lift the car. What else are we going to do? The next step is I want you to imagine that it's your birthday. Happy birthday. Congratulations. So you're going to think, how old am I? Let's say you're 36, such as myself, because I'm old. Not really. I'm forever 21, right? Like all women. So I'm 36. It's my birthday. I'm 37. Yay. I have 37 candles on my birthday cake. Now, again, if you're not in a public place or you don't mind being embarrassed, show me, which you can't actually show me, but go ahead and try. Experience what that would be like to blow out those candles. What would you do? I'll give you a second. Blow all the candles out, right? Lots of candles. Okay, so you'd probably do something like this. You're going to go, all right? So we get lots of air in. Now, you may not necessarily be using the diaphragm, but more likely, probably, your body's like, I got to get a lot of air in. It's probably going to use the diaphragm. Can't guarantee that. Just because you breathe in a lot doesn't mean you're using the diaphragm. It's a little asterisk. Okay. But let's say you are using the diaphragm, like you probably are. Now you have all this air. Whether or not you have power here, you're rounding the lips. That's going to sort of create a little funnel to sort of slow the air. You'll also probably notice that your throat, top of the throat, maybe the middle of the throat, is probably going to be more open as you're trying to blow that air out. That not everybody experiences that, and you have to consciously do that. But for most people that I work with, that will naturally happen. They're like, oh yeah, you're right. Okay. We want the top of the throat. This is the top of the 10. Okay. The 9 is up in here. And I went over the steps before. We can go back over that if you want. But the 10 is the throat here. Okay. That's a step 10 of the 10-step posture process. Top is going to be open. Middle is going to be open. Okay. We're going to come back to that. But air can just come out nice and forcefully. You blow all those candles out. Now what I want you to do is you're going to do the same thing, except instead of you're going to so no rounding the lips, but you're going to breathe exactly the same. You have all these candles, but you have no lips. So you have to try to literally blow the candles out with your breath. Okay. Now you can easily overdo that. That's fine. Play with it. Have fun. By the way, don't do this if you're standing up. Don't do too many inhales and exhales like this too quickly because you can get lightheaded. Don't be driving while you're doing this. Don't be in the shower while you're doing this. I hope you're not in the shower while we're on the live stream. That'd be kind of weird, but you do you. I don't really care. Anyway, just a little disclaimer there. You can get lightheaded, and you want to make sure you're seated in a comfortable space. Nobody's ever passed out, but it's a disclaimer because it is possible if you do too much. Okay. Now, you breathe in, you get your tension, you blow out the candle. So you're going to put your hand here. It's about a foot. Okay. It's not that far. Not way out here. Out here. And you want to clearly, not lightly, you want to clearly feel there's breath there. So if I go, obviously I feel breath. But if I go, I feel a nice, good sort of little wall of air there. It's not as strong as because that's directed, but there's a good amount of air hitting my hand. It's very nice. Okay. If you don't feel that, you're probably not pushing out enough air. Okay. Maybe you need more tension in your stomach for more power. Maybe you need to squeeze the diaphragm more. So here's a little tip, a little bonus side tip. Instead of thinking of pushing the diaphragm up so that the air leaves the lungs, you can also imagine you take your hands, go inside your ribs, and squeeze that diaphragm. So it's like a bag of water, okay, or a bag of air, whatever. And if you squeeze it, what's going to happen? The water's going to shoot out. The air is going to shoot out. That's kind of what you're trying to do. So if you can sort of like your stomach is tight because you're lifting your car, but then you're sort of squeezing the diaphragm so that whoosh, the air comes out. Okay, again, this is exaggerated, but you should have lots of air coming out. Okay. If you don't, you're not using the diaphragm right. Okay. So now we're blowing out our candles. Okay. So we have, I'm always losing this thing. We have suck the air in, lift the car with an open glottis, of course. Squeeze that diaphragm to push that air out and breathe the candles out with your breath. Okay. Now that's simple for basic mechanics. We could take a sentence, for example, at 5 p.m, I saw a young man, and you want to look at it as the first sound is the first candle. The last sound is the last candle. And you're breathing all the way through. Now here we have a comma. We can link through this comma. You don't technically have to pause there. We're going to completely ignore any type of pause just for the sake of making this simple. Just pretend there's no pause there. There's no comma. It doesn't exist. Okay. So I take in my breath, lift my car, squeeze that diaphragm, and then as I'm breathing the air all the way out, I speak. At 5 p.m, I saw a young man. And I notice I still have extra air left over. Okay. You at first may not have as much air left over because maybe your diaphragm isn't fully developed and you're not pulling in enough air. That's something to maybe consider in practice. That was a very natural breath in. I was very low on air there. But that's just to give you an example of how you can start applying that into like words and sentences. You want to make sure you're breathing through everything. Okay, you're trying to blow out all the candles. The breath is consistent. What a lot of people do when they start doing this is their breath will be very inconsistent. Maybe on the stressed words, they're letting more breath out, and on the unstressed words, they're letting less breath out. We don't want that. The breath is constant. Okay, it doesn't at unstressed, 5 stressed, in the not stressed, eve stressed, need not stressed. At 5 in the evening, same breath. It's all the way through. Okay. You also want to kind of hear the breath a little bit under the voice. You don't want to be at 5 in the evening. It's not enough voice, too much breath. Okay. You want to make sure you're vibrating the vocal cords enough so that the voice takes over. But if you listen really closely, you don't want to sound like this. At 5 in the evening, I saw a young man. At 5 in the evening. It almost sounds choppy. It sounds like I'm holding back. I'm scared to breathe out. I am using breath, but it's kind of escaping the lungs rather than being used, being pushed out. So if I hold it back at 5 in the evening, at 5 in the evening, verse at 5 in the evening, at 5 in the evening. See, it flows better. The little words just kind of go into each other. You can kind of almost hear a little breath kind of underneath the voice carrying those words out. Okay. It's a subtle thing, but it's the difference between native or natural and non-natural, even native and non-native. Okay. That's the basics of the breathing mechanics. That's the physical mechanics. Okay. Now I'm going to give you one little bonus here that I don't always introduce right away in the classes, which is suspending. So if you need to pause, like say you want to pause on evening, or you have a list, or you're thinking and you don't want to use a filler, and so you pause for whatever reason. Okay. Anytime you have a pause, what do we do? Okay. There's something that I like to call the 3 modes of the diaphragm. Okay. If you are speaking American English, you are using your diaphragm at all times. If you're speaking, or if you're not speaking, but ready to speak. What I mean by that is pausing. So if I'm just sitting here listening to you, I may not be fully engaged. I may not be fully speech ready. There's like a relaxed posture and then a speech ready posture. Okay. And so I might not be, I'm just sort of like breathing like a normal person. I may not be using my diaphragm, kind of pulling in through the chest, whatever. Okay, whatever. But if you are engaged in the process of speech, you are using the diaphragm. If you're not doing it right. Okay. So the 3 modes, what are the 3 modes? Pull the air in, push the air out. Okay. We've seen those, right? But there's a 3rd mode, which is to suspend. Now, when you suspend, this always blows my students' mind. They're like, wow, that's crazy. Okay. What you want to do is let me do this the way I do it with my students. We're going to do a little game here, a little mini quiz. Okay. So if we're suspending, okay, you're going to have, I'm going to list 4 possibilities. I'm not saying any of them are like 1, 2, or 3 is correct. I'm just going to say there's 4 possible things I can think of that we might be able to do. Okay. So if I pause, I say at 5 in the evening, I pause. What am I going to do in that pause before I continue on? Option 1, maybe I breathe in again. Okay. That's maybe one thing I could try. Option 2, continue to breathe out. Okay. That's another option. Maybe I could do that. I don't know. Option 3, I can, what's the word I was using? I can not stop. That's not the specific word. Come on, brain. Well, number 4 is I could suspend the breath. Now, I kind of already told you you're going to suspend, right? So clearly that's probably the answer. But we need to figure out what that means, right? The 3rd option was I'll block the breath. Yeah, that's it. Because there's synonyms, and I was like, those aren't the words I'm looking for. Block the breath. Okay, so these are your 4 possible maybe options that we can work with. Let me go and pop the chat out here a little bit, just in case. Okay, so we got that there. Bam. Welcome to live chat. I've already been here. Now let's test these. Let's experiment. Okay, let's go through them. So we're gonna go. Well, I can't click on the thing. That's that gets rid of my chat. Technology. Okay, so let's say I breathe in. So I say, okay, at 5 in the evening, I saw a young man. It actually made it harder for me to talk. I still had plenty of breath, and I'm like, why am I breathing more air in? I feel like I'm expanding my chest too much. Like, what's going on? Okay, clearly we don't want to breathe in. Now, can you breathe in? It's possible. It's not the normal thing to do. It's not the standard thing to do. It's possible. That would usually happen. Say, for example, I'm talking, and then my brain, this usually happens very intuitively. We don't really consciously think of it, but my brain is like, hey, you know, the next thing I'm going to say is going to take more breath than I currently have. I should probably refill. So maybe I'm not all the way down. Maybe I'm like halfway down. And then my brain is just like, yep, I'm just going to take a little breath here, refill, so that I can get through this other long thing I want to say. Okay. So it is possible. It's not wrong. It's just not the thing that you want to do normally. Okay. So we're not going to breathe in again. What about continue to breathe out? Okay. So if I say, at 5 in the evening, I saw a young man. I mean, kind of, sort of, maybe not really. It's like that's not really pausing, right? That's just breathing. Can that happen? Maybe if I'm sighing. 5 in the evening, I saw a young man, right? There's probably going to be a certain tone to go with it or whatever. So it's possible, not necessarily what you want. A little air could leak out too. You don't have to like completely suspend necessarily, but we're not really breathing out. Okay. Number 3 and number 4. So these are very similar, block and suspend. What's the difference? I hear you ask, because that's what everybody asks me. What's the difference? Well, yo, is you a man or a woman? I am a trans woman. Yeah, so this is not going to be tolerated. Yeah, you're getting kicked. I was wondering when this was going to happen. Thank you for being the first. You're so special. Let's see. Where's the option? Hide user on this channel. I want to do this. Which option? Let's do that one. And we'll do that one. Report. Hide. Good. Wow, we got the N-word too. How can I kick you from the chat? Because I thought that would kick you. Put user in timeout. For 24 hours. Yay, that worked nicely. I apologize that you guys had to see the N-word and all of those obscenities, but it was going to happen, right? I knew it was going to happen. This is part of living as a person who is visibly trans. Joy of my life. Why don't you mind? Yeah, right. Thank you. Thank you for the defense. Hey, Kat, thank you for work. I discovered English sounds thanks to you. Oh, good. Very nice. I'm glad to help. Don't worry about it. It's the internet. I know. Yeah. I'm on the internet. I got it. Like, okay, whatever. But this is my space. This is my domain. And I will kick that person. Clearly, they're a troll if you look at their username and everything. So, yeah, we don't need any of that nonsense. Looks like I can remove them one at a time. I'll just leave them there. Sir. This might interrupt the stream, guys. Let's see. Let's see how long it takes to get through the transphobes. Hide on my channel. I'm going to go ahead and put you in a timeout. I love that it says put user in timeout. Like, that's just so appropriate because they're literally being like children. Mommy's going to put you in a timeout. Oh, this is my domain. Anyway, let's continue where we were until we get rudely interrupted by more transphobes. So, block the breath, suspend the breath, right? What are we going to do? Well, blocking the breath, as it suggests, right? They're both ways to stop. That's why I don't want to use the word stop. Blocking the breath, we're familiar with, right? You breathe in, and then you hold your breath. You close off that glottis. Air can't get through. Now you can sort of squeak it through, like if you've seen smokers, they inhale and then they want to keep it in there, but they want to talk, so then they sound like this, right? Because they're trying to keep that glottis closed. They're not letting the breath out. Okay. So let's try that. So if I say, at 5 in the evening, I saw a young man. Well, it works. There's a break there. There's a pause there, but you can kind of hear I close into it and then I sort of like squeeze out of it, right? At 5 in the evening, I saw a young man. It kind of sounds weird, right? Now, can that happen? It could happen. It could happen randomly here and there. Usually that's going to be the domain of the stop sounds, especially if it's a glottal stop T. Okay. On any of the stop sounds, technically you can close the glottis, but if you just do a pure glottal stop T, that's all you do is close the glottis. So that's an exception, but that's not about the breath. That's articulation. Okay. The breath is still trying to flow. And then you'll just reopen the glottis and let it flow out. But we'll hear it close and then squeeze out. That's fine around the sounds because it's part of the articulation of the sounds. The only other time you're going to hear that, like you may have just noticed, I'm not saying I'm saying um. All vowels. I've mentioned this once or twice on the channel. I have a video called Anti-Linking. You can go check that out. That kind of talks about this. But all vowels start from a glottal stop if there's no sound before them. Okay. So if you're in a word, you're not going to do a glottal stop. I wouldn't say like the ats. That would be weird. Why would you do that? Okay. But if I say I, is, are you, okay, you're going to start from a glottal stop. And again, that's articulation related. Oh, I see. We have another troll. Okay. That's going to be articulation related. Let me ignore that person for a second. Not breathing related. Okay, so you want to separate those. So the answer is suspend. So what does it mean to suspend? Let me go ahead and get rid of this this person first. Do 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 do. It's kind of like Christmas almost. He's like, thank you for the presents. I get to like. I hope I marked the right one there. I may have accidentally. Did you delete the video? I don't know if I clicked on the right one there or not. Sorry if I accidentally reported somebody that didn't need to be reported. I'm pretty sure I clicked the right one. Not my fault. Sorry. I was supposed to do the troll guy. I just realized I might have clicked the wrong thing. But I'm going to put this person in a timeout, like the little child that you are, and your messages are gone like a wave of a wand. Okay, I gotta go to bed. But I'll watch the video tomorrow. Have a nice day. Number one, yeah, I know, right? Okay, well, if you're still here, thanks. I'll see you whenever next time is. Who knows? And keep practicing. But yeah, watch the rest of the live stream later. Have a good night. Hope you sleep well. Did you delete the video where you teach us how to pronounce better using Audacity? I covered Audacity in a live stream. I don't think I deleted the live stream. I was doing quite a few live streams before I stopped making videos. So it would be like within the last 10 live streams, I want to say, that are on the channel, minus this one and the one before it. I hate to say, hey, go watch all those just to find that. We can go over Audacity briefly while we're here if you want, and then you don't have to go look for it. Yeah, we'll do that. Because I can also tie it into the breath and what we're talking about and show you guys how you can like analyze yourself and whatever. But I don't know why, but I really struggle to say the word words, especially the ending. I have to manually slow down to make a crystal clear Z sound instead of a sound that sounds kind of like an S. And don't feed the troll. I know, right? I'm really terrible with feeding trolls, guys. Like, I mean, they're gonna starve if I don't feed them. Like, I don't want them to starve. You know, I just want them to go away. Anyway. So you can do what's called partial end of word devoicing. Most people call it end of word devoicing, but that doesn't actually exist. So as a simpler example, because DZ is a little bit of a tricky combination with how that can apply. If I say, for example, is, okay, you got to hit the Z. It's not is. That's not the word, right? You won't sound right. But if you hit the Z first and then you kind of like drop the voice and let it end at an S, you'll sound fine. We actually do that pretty commonly. Is, okay. I don't recommend that you try to do that, but if you happen to do that, that's fine. It's not a problem. We do that all the time as natives. In the case of words, that can actually start as early as the D sound, making it a little bit of a T. We're not going to worry about that. That just don't even bother. But if you hit the Z on words and you start in a Z and then you get a little bit of an S at the end, you're fine. Even if you get a lot of bit of an S at the end, as long as you hit the Z, I can say words, 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 words. You're fine. Okay. Do not say words. That's going to be a clear TS. Okay. And do not say words because that's just a full S. Okay. But that's partial end of word devoicing. I have a video talking about partial end of word devoicing, and you can go watch that if you want. But let's continue with this. We can maybe go into the Audacity using our example sentence as well. Let's tie all that together as well. But what does it mean to suspend the breath? It's a fantastic question. It's really a fantastic question. I don't know. My brain is weird today. I'm all over the place. So we know that we don't want to keep breathing out. We know that we don't want to breathe back in. And we know that we don't want to try to, you're welcome. We know that we don't want to like block it off with the glottis, right? So the only option is to do this. So let's say I breathe in. I have all this air. Okay. Now I say at 5 p.m. Sorry, this is not flowing smoothly like it used to. Okay. I'm going to have to get a new one pretty soon, but at 5 p.m. Yep. Screw it. I'm getting a new one. I love how I can use my medical supplies for my transition as like a tool to teach English. That's like amazing. Look at this big box of syringes. Look at all the syringes. I'm not going to run out for a while. Okay. Back in there you go. Let's go ahead and open this. Bam, look at that. This one seems different. Anyway. Yay, now it moves smoothly. I don't like this one. I like the other one I had. Oh, well. Okay, so you go. At 5 p.m, I saw a young man. Okay, now I'm not saying you have to use all the breath there, but you see, what did I do? At 5 p.m, suspend means suspend. Pause means pause. Wherever the diaphragm is, you just stop. You're not breathing in. You're not breathing out. You just have this open from your lips. I mean, I guess you can close your lips technically, but your nose is obviously open. But from the top of the throat, through the middle of the throat, through the bottom of the throat, through the chest, all the way down to the diaphragm. It's just an open pipe. That's it. And the image I like to use here is imagine, like say you have like a dark room and there's like sunlight pouring into the room and you can see the dust like just kind of hanging. It's not even like moving. It's just sort of hanging in the air. That's kind of the image I get when I suspend, when I'm teaching you guys this. I'm like that's the easiest way to practice it. Just take the breath in and then just pause. Don't breathe out. Don't breathe in. Don't close it. Just hold. And you just have this open column, just dust is just there, just floating in your throat, not moving. Okay. And then when you need the breath, you just squeeze that reactivate everything, right? You still have the tension in the stomach. You still have all the things that we talked about. It's just that you're not actually pushing anything out. And then when you go to push it out again, you squeeze the diaphragm, make sure you breathe your candles out, all that stuff, make sure the throat's open, yada, yada, yada. Okay. Now, the reason I mention this to you guys now is because that in itself is not very important, right? Like it's something you need to do if you're speaking English. Yes, it's important in that sense. But in terms of learning how to breathe, it's not that important. But I do find it useful because it's another angle on how to try to feel that you're using the diaphragm and what it feels like to use the diaphragm. Because instead of like using it, pulling it in or pushing it out, you're like, can I stop it from doing either of those? But still, like, I'm still using it. I just stop where it is and then I can continue and then I can continue, right? If you can do that, that's going to give you better control over the diaphragm. and that'll help. Okay, so right now it's not really about the pausing itself. You can apply that later, doesn't matter. Okay, that's not even part of the posture course necessarily, but it can help you get better control and better feeling. So if we have any questions about that, I know it took me a while to get through with all the interruptions and the children in the chat. I don't think I have anything else to say about that right now. Okay. I don't know why you deleted that message. I saw the message. It was like, this is so awesome or something like that. I don't know why you would retract that. Is it not awesome? Did you lie to me? Why would you do that? I'm so hurt. Yeah, I don't care. Things about things. I'm still sharing my screen. Okay. So let's go over here. This is from a class earlier. So yeah, I actually do what I talk about. Proof right there. No, I preloaded that before the live stream just so you guys thought that I was actually a teacher. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I'm a weird person. All right. So let's go ahead and do this. This should work. At 5 p.m, I saw a young man. I was gonna say any young. I know the whole sentence. Sorry, we're doing the short version. Okay. By the way, it can help. One tip that I got from a student, they realized, like, if you're doing the breathing practice, try to like let all of the air out of your lungs first and then breathe in to say the sentence. That can maybe help you actually use the diaphragm more because you're not already preloaded with air in the lungs. So at 5 p.m, I saw a young man and a young woman. I'm just going to extend it. There we go. We have another new part to the sentence because my brain isn't working. All right. Now I'm going to make this a little louder. Oh, I didn't share the audio. Sorry. I'm going to have to share the audio. Give me a second. Stop sharing. Reshare. Entire screen. Include audio. Damn. Okay. Now you guys should be able to hear my audio. Let me know if you can't. Perfect. Okay. And we're going to go over here. Oh, I already amplified it earlier. That's going to be too much. Okay. So at 5, I don't hear it. Oh, my headphones aren't on. I forgot my headphones were on. What are we doing? At 5 p.m. Okay, that was not recorded. Is it using the wrong microphone? Do you guys hear me clearly or do you hear me muffled and distanced? Because it might be using the wrong mic. And if nobody mentioned that, shame on you guys. Okay, hold on. What microphone is this using? Test. Oh my God, it's not even using the right microphone. Test. Hello? I don't know. What's going on here? Test. This is odd. What is happening? I'm so confused. I can hear you clearly with no issues whatsoever. Okay, so then clearly my mic is working for the stream. I can hear you clearly. Okay, great. So this is working. Then let me check, make sure Audacity is using the right mic. And I'll go ahead and share this so you can also know how to do that. Where's the button? Where's the button? Audio setup. Recording device. Yeah, it's on my webcam. That's why. Okay. Now you should still be able to hear me. I don't know if there's going to be a technical glitch where like now you don't hear me anymore. So if you don't hear me, let me know. But I'm going to go ahead and record this. Oh, sorry. I want to breathe in as well. At 5 p.m, I saw a young man. Okay. And actually, hold on. At 5 p.m, I saw a young man. Okay. We're going to do that. That's sort of a perfect controlled version. Now you sound better, but it was okay before. Okay. I don't know. Whatever. At 5 p.m. Yes, that's working. Okay. Now I Pretty sure I clicked the share audio button. If you guys don't hear this, I saw a young man. Let me know. I'm gonna make it a little louder. I'm really, really terrible with not hitting the button. Oh yeah, amplify. Control R. I love technology. It's my favorite thing ever. Okay. Now we're gonna listen to this. You hear that breath? She has a good breath. Now it's maybe a little exaggerated, but that's pretty normal. I had this nice good mic here, so it's gonna be very clear, right? That's good. Now, when I work with my students, okay, and I'm mentioning this to you because it's gonna benefit you. Okay. When I work with my students, if I don't hear this, failure of a recording doesn't count. The rest of the recording could be perfect. I want to hear that breath in. Okay. Because I want you to get in the habit of doing that. Okay. Before you say anything in English, you should breathe in. Now, if you were just saying something and you're pausing and you don't need more breath yet, then you don't have to breathe in. That's an exception. But if you're going to say something in English, you have to make sure you have enough air and that you're engaging the diaphragm properly. Okay. So we have our nice breath set up there. At 5 in the evening, I saw a young man. Okay, now I did two things there. One, we can sort of hear the breath sort of flowing here. At 5 in the evening, at 5 in the evening, you can sort of hear it underneath a little bit. At 5 in the evening, right? I'm not saying at 5 in the evening. That's too breathy, not enough voice. At 5 in the evening, okay, I saw a young man. Okay, I saw a young man. Great. It's not overpowering, but it's there. Now this part, I let out the rest of the air. Now that's not necessarily something that you always have to do. What I've noticed when we're done saying something, I'm not going to say anything else after. I'm like, oh yeah, it was 5 in the evening and I saw a young man. Okay. We're probably going to, any extra air that we have, we're probably just going to sort of quickly let escape. We're just going to deflate the lungs. Like we're not really pushing it particularly. We're not fully engaging breathing. We just literally just let it come out, let it fall out. If you end on an N, like here, we'd probably just let it go through the nose. I didn't do that in this case because I wanted it to be clear for my demonstration. And it would usually be quick and quiet. But you want to have a little breath tail, because if you don't have a little breath tail, you're not breathing all the way through to the end. You're not blowing that last candle out that we talked about. Okay. So you can practice that in an exaggerated way, like I did here. At 5 in the evening, I saw a young man. Okay. Notice I didn't really pause there too much. I kind of just linked through a little bit, but you can sort of hear. Okay. If I'm speaking normally, I'd be like, at 5 in the evening, I saw a young man. Now, maybe you didn't even hear that. I have this nice good mic here. Maybe you heard it, maybe you didn't. It's really small, but I'm just letting the rest out. So you can practice that and then just don't exaggerate it. Just tone it down. Make sure you're just breathing all the way through. Let it go at the end. Now, that's after the last candle. Common mistake, right? So we say, I saw a young man. Okay, and you go, man, and that's your tail. No, man. After the N is when you have your little release. Okay. Because otherwise you're going to sound like you get kind of tight or shallow at the end. Man, it's not going to sound quite right. Sometimes we'll do that if we get lazy. It's possible you might hear that sometimes, but that's not proper normal breathing through. And if somebody has a vocal fry, like sometimes I do, like I was just doing like that, that's going to obviously modify the voice and stuff. So, there's going to be variation in real speech. This is just a good basic mechanical overview to give you guys a good base. And then from there, you can maybe make little tweaks here and there based on what you hear natives doing. Okay. Now the person brought up using Audacity to pronounce things better. I have one more thing to talk about with the throat in terms of the breathing. And also linking the posture into the breathing. So I want to finish that before we look more at Audacity. So let's talk about that first. So you have your throat, right? And see, I'm kind of like closed off in my glottis right now. Let's It's because I'm doing that for effect subconsciously. Okay. So you have your throat. Bam. Great. Now the throat, you do not want to pump air through the throat. A lot of languages do this. The throat tends to be a little higher, a little tighter. The tongue will be higher and tighter. That'll support the tongue. Tongue usually pushes forward a bit. We don't want any of that. We want to come down. We want to come back. Everything comes down and back. The tongue, the throat, everything opens up. Okay. And this might take some practice. Okay. But there's sort of 2 steps here that can help you link the posture more into the breathing, as well as to make sure that the breath comes out clearly, because you might be using the diaphragm right. Air's coming in, air's going out. You have your right stomach tension, but you still don't sound clear. Maybe you even sound kind of like this a little bit, right? Like you can sort of hear the friction if you just breathe out. You don't want to hear that. You want to hear. So you can hear the air coming through, but there's like pretty much no friction. It's just like an open pipe. Okay. So we already talked about how when you blow the breath out, the top here should kind of be open. Okay, so you might have to actively engage that, but you just want to make sure you're not pinching it. Okay, no pinching it. Is the top of the throat going into the 9? None of that. Okay, you want to go to the middle of the throat. So the throat is the 10, step 10, as I said earlier. You go to the middle of the throat. And what you're going to do with the middle of the throat is you're going to push it out. Okay, now be careful, because when you do this, there's a good chance that either you're also going to push this forward, or you might counterbalance. You push this out, you push this in, or you push this out. You pull the tongue up and back. Weird things can happen. People do different things. Everything above this line should not change. If you feel any change, any movement, any different shift in tension, you did something wrong. It's just here. Okay, push it out. Okay, now if you do that, you see that the Adam's apple will probably come down a little bit. That's fine. You're just trying to get more space. Okay, you don't have to overdo it. It's not trying to like push it, as far as you possibly can. You're just opening up, getting more space. Okay, that usually helps most people to let the air come through more. But there's a second step here, which will help multiple things, including stabilizing the throat. You're going to take the sides of the middle. Okay, same area. You're going to tense those muscles down into the bottom of the throat. Because remember, as I said before in other lessons, this is the voice placement and this is the breath control placement. Okay. You want to think of this almost like a bottleneck, right? I don't have a good bottle here, but say we have this perfume bottle. It's hibiscus. I love the smell. Anyway, we see that this is like a big open tube, right? And then we have a sort of like little bottleneck. Okay. So it's not that you're squeezing here, because the more you squeeze here, the more you're going to squeeze up here as well. That's not the point. There's going to be maybe a little bit of tension around there. It's like if you think like a volume knob, instead of like 1 to 10, it's like 1 to 2. Like it's not much. Okay. There's just like a little bottleneck there. You can think of it almost even as like 2 welded pipes. So you have a pipe here going from the top to the bottom, and then you have welding there, and that welding is going to take up a little bit of space, right? And then the second pipe is here. Okay. Different ways that you can picture it. It's fine. It doesn't really matter. But you're going to take the side muscles here. You're going to try to tense them down and lock them into the bottom of the throat. Okay. You can even slightly pinch in a little bit, but you don't want to close and, you want to keep it open. So you're just trying to shove it down there. Okay. And you do this, you do the out and the down as you breathe in, not as you breathe out. You hold it as you breathe out, but you set it up as you breathe in. So if I go, so you can see it. Now I'm doing a little exaggerated, but you see it kind of comes out, I kind of lock it down. You won't really see it come down necessarily in terms of like the pushing it down, but you'll see this maybe come down as you push out. But you should feel it like it's sort of getting lower, almost like you're getting a base at the bottom of the throat. Okay. You hold it there. You can talk all day, right? One little thing I forgot to mention, if you're doing this test and you're using voice, you won't feel the breath, because the voice will slow the breath, but you're still trying to breathe out the same. I forgot to mention that. So if you're like, I don't feel my breath, I'm not doing it right, don't freak out. I should have mentioned that earlier. Anyway, I also have nail polish here. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. My nails look terrible because I haven't done them in like a month. and I was supposed to do them before the live, and then like it took me like 40 minutes to put my makeup on, and because I decided to do more than just eyeliner and lipstick. Anyway, okay, so we got the throat, we got the breathing, all the posture stuff. We've talked about that before. I talked about the 10 steps in the last live stream. You can go watch that if you want to know more, but you link all that together. The only other thing I can mention that you might run into a problem with is root of the tongue. Okay, that's going to be sort of this area here. Okay. Some things that I said in some videos, like some of the details that I gave you guys in, say, the last live stream when I was going over the 10 steps, not that they're wrong, I just don't necessarily use that. Like the whole bell image, I don't really use that much actively anymore because things have evolved and I found like a simpler, more efficient way to kind of like describe that and integrate pieces. Not that it's wrong, it's a different thing. But I may have mentioned a little bit about like the root in that video. I don't remember. But regardless of whether we're talking about how it affects this up here, because it can, or whatever, let's say your breathing is good, your throat's open and out, everything's great. Maybe your 9 is even good. This is low and back and open, and you're kind of bam, okay, you're falling into place. If your root is tight, even if it's just tight, it's not like tensed forward, but it's just tight, that can pull this up and close it a bit, pull this up and close it a bit, pinch this in a bit, just from having that tension in the root. And so if you feel like, well, okay, I'm kind of getting my throat open, I'm doing the breathing, I'm using the diaphragm, everything's kind of working, but it's still not there. It still sounds kind of tight, still sounds kind of whatever. Any one of these pieces could go wrong. It's not like if you do X, Y will happen, but you need them to work together, right? Sometimes if you do X, Y happens, and that's great, but not always. So this is another little thing to look for. And what you want the root to do, you want it to sort of just relax and hang down like that. It will feel, if you do it right, it will feel like you're going to block the throat, and your brain is going to freak out and say, I can't do that. And if you go too far, you can actually start to block the throat, and you don't want that. If you start sounding like, oh, or something, you went too far. You did something wrong. Okay. But if you let it sort of feel like it's falling into the throat, coming down and back a bit, and you don't block the throat, you just sound nice and clear and open, then you're doing good. Okay. Further, especially to counterbalance the front sounds up here, like the T, the E, the E, whatever, especially the high front sounds, you can and should actually resist a little bit in the root. Okay. You should kind of like push it down and back a little. So if I'm doing E, I feel like I'm actually doing that a little bit in my root. It's so subtle that I didn't even notice it until kind of recently, like a few weeks ago. But I can feel that I do that, and that helps people stabilize a lot as well. So I think in the last video, we talked a little bit like stabilizing the 5 and, stabilizing the 3, make sure you're not pushing up, all that stuff. We kind of maybe went over some of those details. That's another sort of piece that you can stabilize there and make sure it stays in place so you don't end up tightening the throat and pulling everything up. Okay. Anyway. Hello, Felicity. Hello, El Tío Chalado. I said that terribly. Chalado. It's Catlin now, though. I appreciate Felicity. I'd much rather that than my dead name. But it is Catlin now, or you can call me Cat. I changed it, which I explained earlier in the live stream. I'm not going to go through all that again for the people that were here. But yes, this is something trans people do. We explore different names and we find what works. And this is the one that really sets in and strikes me to the core. I don't know. It's my name. So yes, but welcome. Let me know if you have any questions. We're just talking about breathing and posture and all kinds of crazy things. Okay. So if you guys have any questions about the throat or the breathing or whatever, you can mention them now. We've been going for how long? How long is our timer at? An hour and 43 minutes. Look at that. An hour and 43 minutes. Wow. Amazing. I still got time. I do have some other things to do, but I have at least another half hour. We can probably go another hour. Yeah. So, but if you have questions, get them in now. Okay, how to use Audacity. Let's sort of switch topics here a little bit. How to use Audacity better to help your pronunciation. There's multiple ways. The biggest way, like I use this in class. Like I'll have students like say for part of the homework, I'm like, hey, we're doing sentence XYZ. You can practice those sentences, record them when you think they're as good as they can be, send them for class next time. And then in class, we'll actually load up Audacity, drop the file in, we'll listen to it. They can hear it. I can hear it. I can give them feedback, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really great for that, if you're working with somebody. If you're working by yourself, then okay, so obviously you can record in it. So now you have a recording, great. And you can break your analysis down into different levels because it's hard to focus on everything at once. Like even for me, right? Like if you just sound like if everything's working, you sound like your posture's there, your sound is there, your breath is there, and you just sound native, then you just sound native. Great. Nothing's gonna stand out to me because you sound great. But maybe the breath is a little bit off, maybe the sounds are a little bit off, maybe the posture is a little bit off, whatever. I'm probably going to hear it. It's going to stand out, right? And maybe you fix that. And then maybe there's another problem that didn't stand out as much, but now it stands out more because you fixed the other problem. So you have like the breathing, right? Trying to make sure that you're breathing through. It sounds good all the way through. You have the posture. Make sure your posture is in place. It's not like you're not pushing forward in any spot or anything like that. Make sure the sounds are good because maybe your posture is good, but then your E is like E or something like that. Who knows, right? So you can listen for each of those one at a time. You sort of check it like, okay, I think the breath is good as far as I can tell. Great. Let me tune my ears to the posture. Okay. Does it seem like the back's in place? Does it seem like I'm keeping my throat open? Does it seem like blah, 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 blah? And again, it helps to work with a teacher who can guide you and knows what to listen for and what to point out. But if you're trying to do this by yourself, then you kind of just got to break it down and figure it out. What else? It's really great for comparing recording. So like, let's say, this is your attempt. And then let's say that, I don't know, let me redo this. Okay. So let's say you sound like, I'll do my Indian accent because that's the easiest one I can do. So if you say like, at 5 in the evening, I saw a young man, right? So at 5 in the evening, I saw a young man. Okay. Something like that, right? And then let me get my breath in there. I want to emphasize that for you guys. At 5 in the evening, I saw a young man. Okay. You can also do like the stress and the intonation. You can look at any level, the linking, the stress intonation. Oh, I have a special new linking exercise for you guys that we're going to go over that will also tie into the breath. We're going to come back to that in a second. But let's say this is your recording. You do that in Audacity. Great. This is the recording that you were listening to, right? Because you got it from me or you found it on YouTube or whatever. You're shadowing it, right? So you sort of like, okay, I'm going to say this a few times. I hear it. I say it. Okay. Now I'm going to try to record myself. So this is your attempt to match this. Okay. So then what you can do now is you can compare. So you go, at 5 in the evening, I saw a young man. God damn. Sorry, that's the first time I've ever listened to myself do that accent. I don't know why that's funny to me. Okay. No offense to anybody. That's just the easiest accent I can do. So don't cancel me or anything. I do that with my like Hindi speaking students or like, Indian students. And they always laugh. Like, I'm not trying to make fun of anybody. It's for language. So at 5 in the evening, I saw a young man. Okay. So we first noticed there's no breath there. Maybe I just didn't quite record it because I wasn't paying attention to it. But, you can check. Do I have my breath in? Okay. And then let's listen to the breath. At 5 in the evening, I saw a young man. See, like I naturally, when I do that accent, I don't even breathe the same. At 5 in the evening, I saw a young man. Okay. Like it sounds like I'm holding back. Like I was like, at 5 in the evening, I saw a young man, but with an accent. Okay. You listen to this one. At 5 in the evening, I saw a young man. So just listen to the breath, just the breath. Ignore everything else. At 5 in the evening, I saw a young man. At 5 in the evening, I saw a young man. And you should be able to hear a difference there. Okay. And you're like, oh, okay. This is what I'm doing. This is what I should be doing. And then you say, okay, well, how do I do the thing I should be doing? And then that's when we get into the mechanics and making sure you're, you breathe in using the diaphragm, you lift your car, you squeeze your diaphragm in, all the things that we talked about. You can go in and tweak those pieces, make sure that you're doing all those pieces correctly. And then you record yourself again, right? And maybe you say like you go like, okay, at 5 in the evening, I saw a young man. Something like that, right? At 5 in the evening, I saw a young man. Okay, there's more breath there. It's better. Not quite like this, but it's better. It's closer. And you're like, okay, something's working, right? And then again, without somebody to help you and point out, oh, hey, this is the exact issue you're having, or let's try this, I'll give you some ideas of what to sort of like experiment with. It can be kind of hard to do by yourself. That's the value of the teacher, but that's how you would go in and try to do that. You can look at the breath, you can look at the linking, you can look at the stress, doesn't matter. Any level you want to look at. But comparing something that you're trying to shadow is like the main use. Like it's super, super powerful. What you can also do, although I don't necessarily recommend it, I do see some people, like I think Edaus and Ness talks about using it this way. I don't like using it this way myself, but you can stack them. Okay. And you want to kind of, they might not be exactly the same length, but you want to kind of stack them up as best as you can. And then at 5 in the evening, I saw a young man. Yeah. So if you're going to do it this way, you want to try to match the exact like speed and everything as much as you can, so that it'll overlap. This is one reason I don't like using this method. But the benefit of that is you can hear each word at the same time, each sound at the same time, and sort of get a comparison of like, oh, I sound more like this. Where when you're doing side by side, it can be a little harder to do that because you're like, okay, maybe the sound is here, right? That's okay. So say the ice part, right? Ice. That's actually a foreshadowing. Ice. But okay. Ice. So you listen to that, and then you can find it here. This is again another use of Audacity. You can highlight a specific piece. Ice. 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 Okay, and you can see how close is that. Again, you can look at the breath, you can look at the sounds, you can look at whatever. But okay, if you stack them, that'll give you one window into hearing some differences. And if you don't stack them, you just compare them like this, then that'll give you a different window. Okay. What you can also do if you wanted to, if you line up the exact spot. Now, if I highlight this, it'll just play that section. Nice. I guess I need to line it up a little bit better, but I don't know exactly. Nice. Yeah, sure. Nice. 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 Okay. Maybe that's useful. Maybe it's not. It depends on what you're listening to, what you're listening for, trying to hear. But that's another good tool is you can do that. You can also, if you have them stacked like this, you can go solo. At 5 in the evening, I saw a young man. Right. And then you come over here. Now, it used to be that when I click solo down here, this one would go off. I don't know what the programming team did, but it doesn't work. So you have to like unclick solo for whatever stupid reason. At 5 in the evening. But this allows you, instead of like jumping from here to here to here to here again, you can literally just like keep it stacked and then just like mute one, mute the other if you want them both going. 5 in the evening. Right, you just play them at the same time. So it's a tool. It sort of allows you to spatially organize the audio material and then zoom in, zoom out, whatever you need to do, compare different aspects of speech, like the breath, the rhythm, whatever. So that would be a little sort of crash course on how to use Audacity for to improve your pronunciation. There's probably other things, but off the top of my head, I can't think of anything. So if you have any questions, let me know. We do have a thingy here. I don't know why I did that. I always find it hard to link the NG to 2 in trying to. I don't even know if natives use an NG sound there or a D takes over. So let's talk about it. And then we're going to get into that special exercise. This exercise is going to blow your guys' mind. It's going to be amazing. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. So For this question, remember, American English pronunciation is the reality, actual real speech, not like the polished, sort of clear, super enunciated version that most people don't use in everyday speech. We use it as a tool to clarify. Most people don't speak like this in their daily life. And if you do, you will probably sound angry, to be honest. um, so we blend things, we drop things, we do all kinds of things. And depending on, okay, from this sound to that sound, these two particular words, maybe X could happen, maybe Y could happen, maybe Z could happen. Who knows? There might be more than one rule that we can apply in this particular case. So it's really more about a range of statistics and what is likely to happen rather than what you have to do. Um, in the case of ing going into the T sound, because that's really the core question, but we'll go and say trying to. Okay, let's talk about the ways that we can say this. So, first way, the most clear, enunciated way, which again, the enunciated way could always possibly come out. It's not wrong in the flow of normal speech. It's just the least likely. Okay, depending on what you're doing, right? Sometimes we do emphasize whatever. Okay. It's very dynamic. That's how the real speech works. But if I say trying to, okay, there's two things that I can do there. The way I just did it, you might be like, if you have good ears, you're probably like, I didn't hear trying. I heard trying as an EE plus N. So there's a long E, right? And an N. And that's what I said, trying to. This goes into how to pronounce the ing, which I have a whole lesson on. I'm not going to go over that right now because it's a tangent. Um, but basically, short, simple version here. You can say "een" when you add ing. When you add ing, okay, not if it's a core part of a word like ring, sing, thing. You can't do that. If you add ing, you can say "een" or you can say "ing," like you were probably taught by other teachers. Okay, both are fine. Okay. So that gives you two options right there, just in the word trying. Okay, there's actually more than that, but we're just going to keep it simple. Then you're going to the two. So if you do trying, now you're back here in the NG, and then you have to go into a T. Okay, well, you're going to have to overlap that. You go trying. As long as this is going on, you can bring this up into the T position. It might feel a little awkward, but you can bring it up to T position. It's not going to affect the NG. And then when you're done with the NG, you let it go. The T is already there, and then you just push it out. Trying to. Okay. Great. Let's say you do the een instead. Okay, now the N and the T are already in the same spot. So that's even easier. Trying to, whatever, trying to. Let's go N to T. Super easy. Is there anything else we can do? Well, you can drop the T actually, because if you use the N and not the back N, the NG, I call it the back N, if you use a regular front N like een, you can actually apply the NT plus vowel rule, and you can say trina. That's why we get trina. Sounds kind of maybe some teachers might say, "Oh, it sounds informal." It's really not. It's just kind of a normal part of speech. Maybe it's a little on the informal side, but it's normal. It's like wanna. That's not necessarily informal. It's on the informal end, but it's normal speech. Wanna, tryna, goina, gonna. That's an even more going to, goina, gonna. Just keeps reducing. So you can apply the NT plus vowel rule. That gives you another option. So no T at all. Only if you do the front end. Can we do a D? Okay. I say, if I go to the back end, I do the NG. I'm trying to do it. It can come out that way. You can sort of keep the voice from the NG and go into a D instead of a T. It's possible. It's a little messy. It's not really supposed to be that way, but it can happen. It's fine. And this is not because it's a T, but because it's the preposition to. Remember, the preposition to is very susceptible to the sounds around it. Okay, very malleable. So it's a special word. It's a special case. Okay, so yeah, sure, you can make it into a D. What if I do a regular N? Can I make it a D? Trying to. Yep, it sounds very natural to me. Feels very natural. That's probably one of the most likely ways I would say it. I'm trying to do it. Trying to. Okay, so just from that, you have trying, trying to, trying to, right? There's at least like 5, 6, 7 options there that you can use. Okay. Now that might seem like a lot. You're like, what? That's a lot. I don't care about all that. I just want to know how to speak English. Pick one. You don't need to know all the options as an English speaker, but you should know that there are options because that's real speech. Instead of getting confused, like my teacher didn't tell me that this existed. Yeah, because they were making it simple for you. And in the beginning, that's fine that we don't overload people. But if you want to learn actual real speech and you don't want to be confused, see, you're going to be like, I don't even know if natives use an NG there. If the D takes over, like, I don't know what happens. Well, if you listen to natives, you're going to hear multiple things happen. Okay. Some options are going to be more likely than others. And then the speed is a factor. Of course, the slower, more enunciated you go, the more limited your options. It's going to sound more correct, how it should be, right? The faster and lazier you go, especially on the very far end that you guys don't even have to worry about, the more things are going to break down even more. I can even say like try. No N, no NG, no T. It's literally just try. There's no consonant between the I and the That's really fast, lazy speech. That's broken, but it's natural. You guys don't have to care about that. That's too far. I don't want you to do that. It's up to you if you want to go into that realm. I don't even teach that. Okay. You don't need it, but I could. I'll try and do it. Try and do it. Okay. Notice I didn't even hit the M very well there. I'm trying to do it. Trying to do it. Okay. Don't even worry about it. But that's part of the range of possibilities in actual speech. Normally, you're going to be in the normal range. You don't have to care about this. Most teachers teach you this. I'm trying to teach you what actual real speech is. And then you have options and you can just like pick one or two depending on the situation. Just get used to it. Just practice it. It's not a big deal. Could you give a little summary about mouth openness when speaking English? Is there any updates from past videos? Well, I did go over a big update on the breathing earlier. I don't know if you just got here. And welcome, Raving Owl You. Raving Owl You. I don't know how I'm supposed to say that, but that's a cool name. Is that a moon? It looks like part of a moon. That's really cool. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting distracted. Things. Lost my thought. Yeah. I don't really have any updates. Like, you make sure the jaw is open enough. It's about 50%. When you're we don't use the jaw to form sounds going up. Like, we don't use the jaw to lift the tongue. For sounds that are, say, above the like the T or the E or whatever, can the jaw close slightly? Yes, it can. Does it have to? No. I can go you can see maybe like it wants to move a little bit, but I'm not like I'm not using the jaw to lift the tongue. You have to be able to lift the tongue separately. It's its own thing because we're starting very low in the jaw and we have all this space and we want to be able to go all the way up using the tongue, not the jaw. The jaw can help a little bit, but only a little bit. It's not the jaw that does the lifting. Very, very, very important, including in the back. Okay, you're not going to say like, You're going to lift the back of the tongue. Trying how to move my jaw. Okay, if you're opening more into like an or an I'm sorry, I was going to say ow, ow, right? These more open sounds. You can get it more open. You don't necessarily have to get it very much more open. Instead of I could just say That's a normal This that's an enunciated, almost exaggerated That's not what you want to use every day. Well, I mean every day, but you don't want to use it like every time you hit the Again, real speech. I'm teaching you guys real speech. There tends to be a conservation of energy, right? The universe likes conservation of energy. So, especially in English, in American English, where we're very lazy, we like to conserve energy as much as possible. So you can even see, I can put my hand here. It looks like my jaw's moving a lot because my chin's kind of getting involved a little bit. My lips are moving around a little bit, but my jaw actually isn't really moving that much. Okay. It's moving, but it's not really moving that much. The jaw's pretty stable for the most part. Okay. I'm not doing this. I'm not saying, hey, yeah, that's a great idea. Nobody talks like that. Okay. So, exactly. The jaw is resting low while the tongue moves. Okay. That's real speech. Okay. Now, should you learn the full version of the sound so you can get fully into them and exaggerate? Yes, you absolutely should. That's the full range of the sound. You should be able to use that. But if you know how to do that already, Like the biggest giveaway that you're not a native speaker is if you always overdo your as. Like I think I told you guys before, I heard somebody, I don't remember where, I think it was on a YouTube video or whatever, but he's like an Italian speaker who like teaches English, and he has a perfect accent, absolutely perfect, except every time he says he says It's like, it's a good but it's just like exaggerated every single time. And I'm just like, that's not natural. So anyway, I'm getting a little lightheaded. I think I'm breathing too much, and probably because I haven't eaten anything today. Yeah. That's pretty normal. I don't eat breakfast. I should, but I don't. By this time I've usually eaten, but I had 2 classes and then I had the live stream, and here we are 2 hours later, so I still haven't eaten. And my throat is getting a little bit sore. So yeah, definitely don't have another hour in me, I don't think. But we still got some time. About the tongue hinge, with how much force are the sides of the tongues. Okay, so I talked a little bit about this in the last live stream. In the second half of it, I went over like the 10-step posture process in the mouth. And the way I'm approaching this now, when I first sort of like discovered the hinge thing and was starting to try to teach it, I couldn't think of the best way to describe it. And now I have a very simple way to describe it. Okay. If you start with sort of a high flat tongue, this is the incorrect position, but this is close to the posture that many languages have. They have sort of a high flat tongue, right? And you take the sides of your tongue and you touch the inside corner of the 4th tooth, not the 3rd tooth. 5th and 6th you can also touch, but you want the inside corner, not up here, not between here, right in here. Okay, right there on the side of your tongue. Now you want to make sure you're not pushed forward or anything, but that's another detail. We're going to sort of ignore that for now. Just make sure your tongue is sort of high and flat and your sides are lined up with the corner of the 4th tooth. Okay, and you're touching it. Okay, you're not pushing really hard into it. You can feel it. Okay, that's it. You're not bracing it. You just feel it. Okay, so you have a high flat tongue. Step 1 of the 10-step posture process. Posture. I don't know what that is. We sort of push down in the middle. Now you still got to touch the 4th tooth. You're not trying to bring the sides in and collapse them. This should stay right on the 4th tooth, right on that corner, but you just sort of take the middle and you sort of push it down a bit. Okay. You get almost a little bit of a V shape, not super tight. You're not trying to like that. Just push the middle down. That's step 1. Okay. So we go from here to here. Okay. Now you might have things off here. Usually that's the case. Complex 2, probably be a little bit off. What I'm experiencing now, if I start with the breath first and we get the throat in place, and then I say the 9 and then 1 through 4, bam, people usually don't have the problem in the complex 2 anymore for the so that's cool. Remember the breathing, okay? But point is, okay, you should sound a little bit closer to the sound if you do that. Okay, then step 2, you're going to widen and relax the sides, but you're still touching the 4th tooth. Okay, might get a little bit loose, that's fine, but you're still touching it, right? 5th tooth, 6th tooth, that's fine, right on the corner. Okay, you're not going between or anything. You're just sort of letting it relax, widen down a little bit. And so now instead of like a V shape, you have sort of almost like a hammock. Okay, it's not really a half pipe because you're not trying to lift the sides to the teeth. That's the wrong way to think about it. Okay, I probably described it that way at some point, and it was causing problems. Okay, it's one way to look at it, but it tends to cause problems for most people. So instead of trying to lift the sides like this, that's why we started here with a high flat tongue, and then we're going down and then relaxing. So now you're hanging the tongue off of the teeth instead of trying to lift up and push into the teeth. Okay, because if you do that, it's not going to work very well. It's just me trying to push up into my teeth is very uncomfortable. It's very hard to talk. It doesn't work. Okay. Let it hang from the teeth. Okay, again, 4th, 5th, 6th, just like a string there. Just let it touch the corner of all those teeth and hang the middle of the tongue. Okay, again, front of the tongue doesn't curl. Back of the tongue doesn't curl. It's just the middle. Nice, good little hammock there. The front's just hanging out. Okay. Now you say, how much force should there be on the sides of the tongue to stick it to the 4th tooth? And I have a little clarification on that. I probably mentioned it in the last video. The 4th tooth is a core posture feature, okay? And it's shared by British English. They do it a little bit differently, but it's also based around the fourth tooth. That's how I discovered it. It was actually in the British literature. But what was I going to say? I lost my thought again. See, I need to eat, apparently. My brain is not working. Yeah. So the fourth tooth is a core posture piece, but it's more of a guide rather than something you have to always be touching. Now, you will be touching it most of the time for most sounds. That's going to happen. Okay. But it's not necessarily that you have to be touching it. It's more that it's a guide. And let me show you this visually. If we come back over here. Okay. You guys should be able to see my screen. Yes, good. Okay. Let me pop out the chat again. I have to draw on this. Where's the pop out chat. Bam. Bam. All right. So, yes, we have the 4 lines or the 4 pillars. And I talked about this in the last video. One is here, one is here, one is here, and one is here. Okay. This is where our T is. It's just lined up. So the blade of the tongue, not the tip, the blade of the tongue is lined up with approximately the middle of the bump of the alveolar ridge. The middle of the back of the tongue, which is where all the back of tongue sounds are, by the way. I have a little update on the dark L. I said it was here before. I also said the was here before. Technically not wrong, but I have an update that makes it easier to do and is maybe slightly more accurate compared to how I felt it before. Now I'm much more aware of, like, in those videos, like the original course, not the mouth posture course, but just the regular pronunciation videos. People are like, "Oh, this helps so much. This is great." Blah blah blah. It's like that's awesome, right? I feel my mouth better after teaching mouth posture for so long. I feel my mouth better now than I did when I made those videos. And I already felt my mouth really, really well when I made those videos. So I'm still like occasionally, not frequently, but I'm occasionally like, you know what? Actually, this is a slightly better description. I didn't realize that it actually feels that way. So I'm still kind of improving a little bit as well as I go, but that doesn't happen very often. So anyway, middle of the back of the tongue, which is where our K is, all of our back vowels are, the back tongue sounds, is going to be lined up with the start of the soft palate, not the hard palate, not way back here, the start of the soft palate. Okay, it's just a line. Okay, now if you go up and you do a K, you're going to touch that. If you go up and you do a T, you're going to touch that. If you're not touching it, then you're going to roughly be in line. A couple sounds will break it in the front. The TH will stretch forward. The SH will pull back. Aside from that, generally you're going to stay lined up. This is part of posture. Okay, now you're like, what does that have to do with the fourth tooth? Okay, this is line 1, this is line 2, this is line 3, this is line 4. Line 2 is the fourth tooth. Okay, now as I said, in most sounds, you will be touching that tooth with the sides of your tongue. If I say E, touching it, T, touching it, S, touching it, Y, touching it, K, touching it, U, touching it. Can kind of pull a little bit on it, but I'm still touching it. Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If it gets a little loose, that's not a problem as long as you keep that same part of the tongue that was touching underneath it. There's a little wiggle room in terms of forward to back. It's not like an exact, like, that's going to bring in tension we don't want. Some sounds might pull it a little bit this way. Some sounds might pull it a little bit that way. That's not necessarily a problem as long as you're staying like 99%, 95% right in line with it. So if you're touching nice and firmly for some sounds like the E, bam, done, no problem. If you get a little loose, no problem. If you do the ah and the ah, obviously we're not touching in the ah and the ah. That would be very hard to do. That would be counterproductive. I can't do that. Okay. But they stay lined up. Okay. The blade is still lined up. If I go ah, still lined up. Ah, still lined up. Same thing with the fourth tooth. It's lined up. When I'm done with those sounds, whoosh, goes right back up. Okay. You don't do this. You don't do this. Okay. The ah can have a little bit of forwardness to it, which I don't usually recommend for you guys because it can break your posture. There are some teachers who talk about that. Technically, they're not wrong, but you don't have to do that for the ah. So be careful. You don't have to actually be pushing forward. Stay in line with the fourth tooth. Okay. In fact, if anything, pushing more back this way into the ah and more back this way into the center of gravity while you're doing the ah will tend to get you better results than trying to push it forward. Anyway, that doesn't really matter. Sixth tooth should also be lined up. Okay, the sixth tooth is where the center of gravity is. So if you're not sure where my center of gravity is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, draw a line onto the tongue. Bam, you can even put your finger there. You count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Put your tongue or put your finger right there on the tongue. Bam, that's the back middle, lined up with the sixth tooth. That's your center of gravity. That's where you should feel that it is. And as I'm talking to you right now, again, that's the center of gravity. So as long as I'm not doing an or an ul, it's sort of like this. It's like the sounds are kind of trying to pull it around a bit, but it's just sort of like a buoy on the water. It stays under that sixth tooth. And I keep my shape as well. The one shape, the two shape, it's all still there. It's all part of posture the whole time. Okay. Doesn't break the line. Same thing with the fourth. Okay. It doesn't matter if I'm doing a T, this is going to be lined up. If I'm doing a K, this is going to be lined up. If I'm doing a Y, this is going to be lined up. If I'm doing an this is going to be lined up. If I'm doing an this is going to be lined up. Okay. Again, there's always a little wiggle room forward and back, but you want to make sure that you're locked in, down, back, good posture. And then don't be so rigid that, you're too tense. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. But you want to keep those four lines at all times. So anyway, that's really the function of the fourth tooth. It's more of a guide to stay lined up with, rather than something that you absolutely have to be like pushing into or touching like at every last second that you're producing speech. Okay. Even in the I don't usually mention this because it's not very important, but in the you can actually be like right under, like the fourth tooth is here. I could touch my fourth tooth, or I can be like right there where it's like I'm just barely not touching it. That's fine too. You can still do an like that. Not really a big deal. I don't usually emphasize that to you guys because it doesn't matter. And I want you to make sure that you're focusing on that fourth tooth and you have a good posture. But if it happens to get a little loose when you're saying, that's fine. As long as you stay lined up, not a problem. Sometimes I feel too tense to keep the posture with how much force should I, okay, we definitely need punctuation in there. Sometimes I feel too tense to keep the posture. How much force should I keep? Sorry. I'm trying to parse this and correct it at the same time, and that's failing. Sometimes I feel too tense to keep the posture with how much force I should keep my tongue back. Okay, so sometimes I feel too tense to keep the posture, period. Should I use to keep my tongue back? Should I use how? Yeah, so get rid of with. How much force should I use to keep my tongue back? That would work. Yeah. I was trying to put with at the end because we don't usually put the with there. That sounds like very formal and dated. But if I try to just put it at the end, it doesn't work in the sentence. So that's what was throwing me off. Okay. So, well, to answer the question, again, if you weren't here at the start, well, not the start, I was talking about myself, but earlier in the stream where I was talking about like the breath and how to engage the diaphragm and open up the throat and all that stuff, the way that I'm approaching the course now, like if you were to have class with me, I'd be like, okay, the first thing we're going to do, we're going to look at system 1, system 1.5, and system 2. System 1 is the breathing. We're going to start engaging this, opening this up. System 1.5 is the throat. We're going to open that, lower it, lock it in. System 3 is the mouth. We just look at the 9 and the 1 through 4 in the first class. That's it. That's our overview of the first class, aside from maybe a little bit of phase 0 work. And what we do, if we start here first, okay, if you don't start here with the breath, then the way that your posture holds things, you're probably going to be a little tight in the chest. You're going to be a little tight in the throat. You're going to be a little tight here, and it's going to push everything because your posture wants to go up and forward. That's what most postures do. I can't guarantee for sure your language, but in my experience, to some degree, compared to American English, pretty much every language does that. American English, even British English, to some small degree, kind of does that a little bit. American English is kind of the freak. Okay, we're the laziest, lowest, sort of whatever posture. Okay, so if you go from here first, right? Okay, if you go from here first, you're fighting it, and you're going to have to use more force to try to hold it in place. Okay, if you start here first and you learn how to breathe and open up the throat and let everything come down, then it's going to fall more into place. And you do have to keep it there. You have to stabilize it. You have to lock it in a little bit. There is some active engagement. It's not completely relaxed. A little bit of shaping. Okay. We need some structure. But if you start here first and let it fall into place, you're going to have to use a lot less force, a lot less tension to try to keep it in place. Okay. So you want to start with the breath first. Okay. There was one more thing I wanted to mention with that. I forgot. Breathing throat. Yep. Don't remember. Okay. So hopefully that answers the question. But as I was also saying earlier, it sort of touched on to sort of link the posture into the breathing. Number one, we want to make sure like, okay, our 9 is good. The top of our 10 is good. We're opening the throat here. But the root of the tongue also, that is usually very tight for a lot of languages because you'll be sort of high and tight through here. You'll push these muscles up this way where we let them sort of hang out and open up. Oh, that's what I was going to say. And this helps the tongue sort of push up and forward like that. And then also your 3 down here will be high and tight as well to get a high tongue. We want to reverse all of that. You want to let it come down, open, come back. And so the root of the tongue, even if you're trying to do all that, if you have too much tension here in the root, which you may not even feel, it might be slightly tensed forward, not necessarily pushed forward, it might be slightly tensed forward, or it could just be tight. Okay. And I can almost guarantee you probably have tension there that you don't need. Okay. That's going to block you to some degree of getting this in place, getting this in place. Like your center of gravity should be able to fall through the root into the throat. If it doesn't, you're probably not doing it quite right. And you might sound pretty good, but you might not be doing it quite right. And you could sound even better. Also, if your root is tight, even if it's not like pushing up or pushing forward, it's just tight, that can cause some pinching in here. That can cause some tension maybe through here. That can cause some tension in here, maybe pulling up this way. That can even cause the middle of the throat to kind of be like pushing in or pushing up a little bit. And then you're like, okay. So this root can cause problems. And I had a class this morning with somebody where they have a big issue with this. And we've been working on it. We've been making it better and stuff. But for this class, for whatever reason, they were kind of stuck. And I said, hey, let's check the root really quick. And they did manage to loosen up the root and let it come down and back and not be so tight. And they were still tight here. So it didn't solve that problem, but they did sound better by loosening up that root. So that is another like little thing to consider. A little technique there. If you can go from center of gravity through root, through back of 9, if you lift up your head and you just completely relax, let gravity take over. Okay, just let it widen out, let it come back, let it come down. Usually for most people, that's a really easy way to do the sound with a good American quality. It's not guaranteed that you'll do it right. But I've had a lot of students over the years be like, hey, I notice when I lift my head or if I'm laying down, I can do the sound better. And at first I was like, that's cool. Doesn't matter. But now I realize that that's actually sort of a little technique that we can use to help you feel what it's like to open up and come down. And then you have to be able to keep it there while you look forward. Okay. So it's like a little half step that you can use. That's a little tip, how you can maybe try to integrate it, open up the 9, let the root fall down. But again, down here, any tension that you would hold in the root and the top of the throat from your language, you want to let that go, open it up, put that tension down here into the stomach and the diaphragm instead. Okay. Okay. Sam the Chipmunk. Took me a second. I'm sorry. I'm glad there's not a lot of comments actually, because I'm always behind. But hi, Kat. Thank you for using my name. I appreciate that. How's everything? Pretty good. I talked a lot about myself at the beginning, so I won't go into that here. Where do we actually produce the front sounds? Yes, I can read IPA, I swear. Ow, a, what's the I, etc. Okay, is the middle of the front. Okay, so there's options. I'm sorry. Okay, I wish I could just say this, but it's not giving you the full picture. And part of why I think some of you guys like me is because I give you more than one option and try to give you the full perspective instead of just saying this is how it is and that's how you have to do it. Because the reality is that there's usually more than one option. Earlier, we were talking about that in terms of like how we're linking between trying and two. And we saw that there's like at least 5, 6 different things that you can do. Not that you have to do all of them or care about all of them, but you have options. When we talk about the front sounds, okay, I have a pretty standardized way of teaching this. In fact, let's go ahead and zoom in here. Now, this map is approximate, especially the front area here. It's very approximate because this tooth is not this big. Okay. I made it big so that it's very clear where that tooth is and, you know, what you're supposed to kind of do in that area, but this is an approximate area. So don't the lines that I'm going to draw here are not like an exact line. They're going to give you an idea. Okay. Keep that in mind. They're going to be close, just not exact. So the e, a, those are the front vowels. Okay. Not the diphthongs, just the basic monophthongs. Those are all on the front of the tongue. Now, here's the really cool thing. And I don't think I talked about this in the last live stream, and I definitely haven't talked about it in any other video because I didn't know about it when I was making videos. I didn't realize it. There's a really cool little phenomenon that we have, at least in American English. So I said that we have our 4 lines. This is our first line, right? The blade of the tongue, not the tip, the blade of the tongue is going to sort of line up roughly with the middle of the bump here. And it's going to generally stay there at all times, unless a particular sound kind of breaks, like the TH stretches forward. Fine. So 99% of sounds, this is where it is. Maybe it's lifted for a sound, maybe it's low for a sound, but it's going to be lined up. Now, that's a useful tool because let's say, and don't worry, this is going to be relevant. I'm giving you a sort of matrix here that's going to help you remember all of this really, really well, and it's going to blow your mind. Okay. All of our consonant sounds, okay? All of our consonant sounds that are on the front of the tongue. So we have like just a couple back here, the k, g, ng, the w is like a semi-vowel consonant thing, whatever. Not a whole lot on the back. So most of our consonants are on the front of the tongue, right? But I do this sometimes, every single consonant sound that is in the front of the tongue is going to be on the blade. Okay. The only technical exception, maybe you could say the TH is on the tip. Okay. But if I do a T, what am I going to do? I'm going to take the blade. I'm going to push up here. T, D, N. That's 3 sounds right there. Let's say I want to do a S. You just don't go all the way up. S, Z. Let's say I want to do a Y. Okay. Sorry. No, Y. Y is going to be, Y is a semi-vowel / consonant. It's going to make a lot of sense where Y goes. Sorry. Forget that one. I think of Y as a consonant. That's why I mentioned it. We're going to set that aside. Heart. Thank you. Okay, let's say I want to do a ch or a j. Okay, now so the start of it is in the TD position, so we're going to start here, but the sh j will pull the blade back. So it's still on the blade, but it pulls it back. Okay, and you have to make sure that this part stays low. So it's going to be sort of this weird angle, sort of, but it's going to squish that blade back. It's that blade back. It's still on the blade. Okay. If I do the TH, sure, I can't talk. Sure, I can, I lift up here towards the teeth, or maybe I can go in between the teeth. It doesn't really matter. There's multiple ways to do the TH. But let's say I come around here. This sound you could say maybe is on the tip because there's going to go right through here. That would be the one exception. Okay. But even the SH or the CH that's going to sort of pull the blade of the tongue back, it's still on the blade. Okay. It's on the front half of the tongue. Okay. And the TH also is on the front half of the front. Okay. So every single front consonant that we have is on the front half of the front of the tongue. One is on the blade, on the tip. All the rest are on the blade. Okay. That's the consonants. Every single front vowel, with the exception of the start of A. It's the only exception. So the E, I, A. Okay. Start of I is a little different. Ow is a little different. Oi is a little different. Okay. But the end of A, I, ow is around the E, or sorry, the I. But I, A. They're all on the back half of the front. When I realized this, it blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Now, here's the cool thing. Again, this is not an exact straight line lined up. This is an approximate area. Keep that in mind for the vowels. The Y is sort of on the line here. It's sort of like literally in the middle of the front of the tongue. Yeah. I feel like I lift this up a bit. I lift this up and I kind of like maybe sort of like push forward a little bit. There's a range of what you can do, but you kind of just like get it close to here, and that's a Y. Yeah. Not using the blade. Blade is still roughly lined up with where it was, sort of hanging off here. Yeah. Okay. But the sound is on this spot. It's just lifted up near the top. Okay. That's the Y. And interestingly, the Y is a semivowel. Okay. So it's almost like literally it straddles the line between the consonant side and the vowel side. Now, if we look at E, I, A, the E is going to be about here. The I is going to be about here. The sorry, that's not good. About here. The is going to be about here, and the A is going to be about here. We get a staircase. E, I, A. Okay. There's also, I can tell you guys, they're like E and I. This is going to go counter to what a lot of teachers tell you, because E is supposed to be a tense vowel, I is supposed to be a lax vowel, and relative to each other, that is true. But there's a certain tension structure that E and I share, and there's a certain tension structure that E and A share, even though they also, like, E is more relaxed than A relative to each other, but they share a basic structural tension and shaping, which is really, really cool. I'm not going to talk about that in this live stream because, like, that's a tangent, and like, but I've managed to, with this technique, almost everybody that I've worked with, that I've gone through these sounds with, if they have any problem in E, I, it's almost like immediately fixed. There's a couple people that get stuck on the I and the A, and it takes a while to really get it, like, in muscle memory, but to actually, like, be able to start producing the correct sound instead of, like, trying to find it. Where is it? I don't know how to do it. This technique, it's like a knife through butter. It's just, it helps so many people just kind of like get how to do the sound, and then they just have to, like, make it muscle memory, which is harder to do. Um, So you have a staircase here for E, I, and you're pushing on all sounds, especially all vowel sounds. You want to make sure you're pushing with the center of gravity. Very important. If you push this way, if you put tension like that while you're doing E, it's not going to sound good. Okay. You want to push this way. E. If I go like this, E, I get tension back here. I feel like my middle's trying to come up. It doesn't work. Push with the posture. E, you're going to sound better. Okay. Um, that being said, okay, this is your basic matrix: consonants, vowels, and the Y in between. That's your basic matrix, right? The front vowels, the monophthongs, can also be produced here. Okay, you'll see some resources that do that. Like the E is like this, and the I is like this, and the E is like this, and the A is like that, or something like that, right? They're all kind of like along this line. That's another way to do it. I talked about that in one of the other videos where I was trying to attach the posture to the vowels. So there's two places where you can put those monophthongs in the front. Personally, I recommend that you don't do it here. The reason why is because that can easily trigger your native posture, and we don't want to do that. Okay. Now, if you can do it that way, you're used to doing it that way, you sound fine, you don't have an accent, then go for it. I don't care. You don't got to change it. Uh, at the end of the day, as long as you sound good, I don't care what you do. You could do the exact opposite of what I say, and if you sound great, you sound great. Good job. Sometimes that happens. It's weird. Everything works, but not everything works for everybody. Um, so that would be the answer to that. Now, for the A, I, ow, oi, that's a little bit simpler and more straightforward. As I said, the endpoint for A, I, and oi is around the I. Roughly, you can get a little bit towards the lazy E, but you don't want to go into a full E. So it's going to be somewhere around that general area. The A part is going to be on the blade, and it's going to start around here, and you're going to kind of go up and back a little bit, switch onto the back half of the front of the tongue. So you're going from the front half to the back half. A. It's a little movement, doesn't take a lot. You know, make sure your posture stays in place. That's a big problem. Okay. The I, the start of I is going to be about right here. A is here on this side. Or sorry, A as in cat. Yeah, is here on this side. You're going to open the jaw a little bit. The start of I is here. You're going to open the jaw a little bit. They don't have to be different heights. They can be the same height. It doesn't really matter if there's any little height difference. I hear some people say, like, oh, you should have like the I should be more open than the ass. Like, no, that's a bunch of nonsense. It doesn't matter. You just want to make sure that you're on the other, you're now on the middle of the tongue rather than the front of the tongue. Okay, so this is where this line going through the fourth tooth, it sort of matters. Like, where does the front of the tongue end and where does the middle of the tongue begin? You have to figure out where that line is so you can place these sounds correctly. Whoops. Yeah, okay, whatever. For the No, yeah, I wanted to keep that. So then you're going to go from here to here, right? For the oi is going to be sort of back here. We're already engaged in a full kind of like how your native language probably does the o. Ours normally we don't do that. We go oh. Okay, we sort of move into it, but we're going to go from o sort of into ish, oi. Okay, so those all end in the same spot. They're going to have different starting spots. Um, one's on the back, one's technically on the middle, one's on the front. Okay, for the ow, same starting point here, but you go back up into the high schwa, the sound as in book. That one's the complicated one. That's like the most mechanically complex sound in the language. It's a pain in the ass, but that's how it works. So the ending point is on the back of the tongue, and then the starting point is on the front of the middle. Now, I have heard that some teachers, including Rachel's English, say that, hey, for ow, you should actually use ah instead for the starting sound. Personally, I don't like that. I don't recommend that, but it does sound fine. So if you want to do that instead, you can, as long as you're doing the ah right. I personally don't recommend it, but it's possible. Okay, so hopefully that answers the question. The diphthongs, they're sort of moving in and out of places, right? It's usually not even like the A, they're both on the front, just different parts of the front, and the rest are like from a different part into the front or from a different part into the back. So those are variable, but the front vowels, very consistent. They're all right in here. Okay. Yeah, so it wouldn't be the middle of the front. It would be the back of the front. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. Tongue overlapping the teeth with the bunched R. Tongue overlapping the teeth with the bunched R. I'm not quite sure what you mean. I know it took me a second to get to this because I was answering the other questions. If you're still here and you want to clarify that. Tongue overlapping the teeth. What do you mean overlap? Like which teeth? I don't quite understand. Tips for using the blade rather than the tip. Use the blade. I don't know. Some languages, they'll kind of retroflex the tongue for, say, like the T, or for some sounds. We never retroflex the tongue. We don't do this. Okay. The closest thing that you can get to that is a retroflex R, but that's not retroflex in the sense that like we're not like curving the front of the tongue this way. It's like the tongue is trying to do this and then it's like that, right? Or I can maybe kind of curl it back a bit if I want to get it extreme, but again, the bunched R is generally easier. You don't even have to worry about the front. Just make sure the middle is fine. Lol. Okay, well, don't clarify the question then. I don't know. Oh, probably because I said just to use the blade instead of the tip. But yeah, so maybe with the exception of a retroflex R, we don't do that with the tongue. Like, and it's never going to be at like an angle like this. Our T isn't like this. Our T, there's a certain flatness to it. You use the blade area, not the tip area. Okay, so you don't want to be like that. Okay, so if you're doing that, you're using the tip. Again, the TH is the only sound that's going to use that technically. So you just kind of like, you should always feel like the tip is kind of like in front of the blade. Like it's sort of just like, it's just sort of there. Like the blade is where you're putting the tension and the shaping or touching things. And then this is like literally, if you feel like, what is the tip of my tongue doing? It's just kind of like there. Like that's it. It's not usually shaped or anything. It's just kind of just there. Right. You might get some tension in it depending on some sounds, but that depends on the exact articulation of what sound you're doing. Were those purple dots, you just use the spots where the tongue has to move to produce a sound? Yeah, so I was saying like, so like the A, for example, so you start the sound on this spot and you end the sound around on this spot, but of course this is going to be lifted up to about here. This is going to be lifted up to, say, about here. It's not a straight line back. There's a little bit of an angle to it, but so in this static image, right, we just see the tongue here. So I'm trying to like draw where like, okay, you would lift this up to here. You start and then as you transition into this is going to drop back down, and this is going to lift up so that you're right? You kind of move into the other sound. So that's where each sound is, and then you want to move from point A to point B. Yeah, for the diphthong. Yeah, no, I can't get the back of the tongue narrow enough. Should the back of your tongue be narrow though? Because it shouldn't. That's actually a big mistake. You don't want the back of the tongue to be narrow. You want it to be wide. You don't want it to be too wide, but you don't want it to be narrow. If you're squeezing, if you feel like you could take your hand to the back of your neck and squeeze the back of your tongue, and you feel like you have that tension, like you're squeezing it, you're doing it wrong. Okay. Back of the tongue should be relaxed and sort of widened out a bit. And by the way, if you squeeze the back of the tongue like that, it will also squeeze the top of your throat, and you don't want that. Okay. Widen the back, open up the 9 and the top of the 10. Okay. They're sort of loosely connected. I can emphasize one or the other, but it doesn't matter. If I try to tighten here or tighten here, the other one will tighten to some degree. If you go too wide, you're going to also have problems. And you'll start to sound weird. So just it's like tuning a station, like too much static, not quite. Oh, there it is, right? I found the right station. I'm dated. I don't know. I'm not that old, but I'm thinking of like an old radio dial or something. Like it's kind of like that. Like, oh, hey, okay, my tongue is too narrow. Let me widen it. Oh, that doesn't sound good either. That sounds like it's too wide. Okay, let me try to narrow it back a little bit. Okay, now it sounds better. You just gotta figure out where it is. The bunch star is my kryptonite. Yeah, it is for a lot of people. Well, when we do the R, you actually there's some details I mentioned in the R lesson and some that I didn't. And I actually haven't had to talk about the R with anybody in a little while because I have like a lot of newer students I'm working with. I haven't gotten that far. But the back of the tongue, there's a couple things it could do, but usually what helps is like if you take the back of the tongue, you don't want to push it forward in terms of your posture, but if you can sort of like get it shaped like that, where the back is sort of getting out of the way, that's going to give you more space here. And it's going to help you sort of maybe like bunch this a little bit better. And then the front just sort of gets pulled. So the front's just sort of there. It doesn't really matter what the front's doing. Hopefully that helps. There's other details. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but can we place the tip of the tongue behind the bottom teeth all the time, even when pronouncing TD? No. So the general guideline and rule that I give you guys is you never, ever, ever, under any circumstances in any sound, touch the tip of your tongue to the bottom teeth. Never. In any sound, period. I don't care what the sound is, consonant, vowel, anything, never. Okay. That being said, first, the reason why I recommend you don't do that is because that's not basic posture. That's going to likely have you be out of place. Now your blade isn't lined up right. And probably the reason why it's out of place is because you're pushing from back here in order to get it on to the teeth. That's what French does. French is pretty much like nailed there the entire time. So if I try to talk like this, I'm not trying to sound French, but I immediately start sounding more French because I'm sort of stuck there. Okay. You don't want to do that. Okay. So because it poses a very big risk of breaking your posture and or breaking your alignment here, don't do it. However, if you have good posture, if this is locked into place, everything's good, you have full control, right? When we do the TH sound, we take the front of the tongue and we stretch it forward towards the top teeth. So clearly we can keep our posture and stretch this forward. Okay. If you can't do that, then you have to be able to do that first. Once you can do that, then on pretty much every single vowel sound, you can go ahead and take the tip of your tongue and just set it right here. E, I, A, O, I can even do it with I used to not be able to, but I can do it now. O, the dark L. A, I, Al, Oi. Just here the whole time. Okay. But that's because I'm stretching it forward and anchoring it there while keeping control of my posture. That is an advanced thing that natives can do that I do not recommend you even try to do until you have good posture. If you have no accent in American English, that's when you get to try to do that. That's my recommendation. If you don't have a perfect accent in American English, don't even think about it. In stabilization column, that's a term I haven't used in a while. Not that it's wrong. It's just a term I haven't used in the current version of the course. See, this is what happens when I don't make videos for like months at a time. It's always updating, like improving, expanding, evolving, getting better, getting more efficient. Still a good term, stabilization column. Yeah. Okay. That was from the last video for anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about. The last live stream. So in the stabilization column, you want to try to take the center of gravity, push down and back into it while taking the bridge and pushing it down and forward, lining these 2 points up so they're on top of each other. Okay. I have a clarification on that. That's going to make your life a little bit easier. I don't really understand the meaning of on top of that or somehow visualize it. Do you have other term on top of that, or can you explain further? Thank you so much. I mean, on top of each other. Okay. Yeah. So the stabilization column, I was saying that there's a sort of line right here that divides the middle of the tongue and the back of the tongue, right? And it kind of goes through here, and it roughly kind of lines up right through the 6, right? Now I just call it the 6, but I originally called it the bridge because it sort of links the seat belt under here. This is the 3 and 4 to the 9, which is the space sort of at the right above the top of the throat there. Now it's just the 6. If you want to call it the bridge, that's fine too. I don't really use the term anymore. And this column, as I'm speaking, if I pay attention to this line through here, it remains pretty stable. It's almost just like a metal rod, is like everything else is going about its business. And so you take the right, as it says here. I guess this is a quote from what I said because it's in quotations. You want to take the center of gravity, push down and back into it, right? So we're pushing this way. That's good. Okay. While taking the bridge and pushing it down and forward. So that was going like this, right? Okay, so that's how, oh yeah, and I was probably going through this. So this is now the 5, sort of evolved as I went along, but okay, so let's clarify this. So this is the stabilization column. So we're going to push through here and we're going to push through here so we can make that one big thing, right? Because they're both trying to stabilize down and back. You can't actually go through the stabilization column. If you do it right, it's going to feel almost like you're pushing into a wall here, but then you can also push off that wall in the back. That's confusing to some people. If it confuses you, don't worry about it. Just push that way. Okay. And then the bridge here. So I was saying like, okay, we're going to push down this way to sort of open up the top of the throat area. And when I say they're stacked on top of each other, which they should be, roughly, what that means, let's see, lining these 2 points up, so on top of each other. What were the 2 points? Hold on. Lining these 2 points up. I don't really understand. What was I talking about as the first point? That's a good question. 6. That point. I guess it's where the center of gravity and the back of the tongue meet. But yeah, if you take those 2 points and you line them up, right? Oh yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, because the way that a lot of postures work compared to American English, as I was saying earlier, this is higher and tighter, which gives you a tighter rouge, tighter tongue. You're pushing this way, so your tongue is actually going to be kind of maybe more like that or something. It's just I'm giving an approximate drawing, like it's not going to be accurate, but because you're going to be higher, but then you're going to be like pushing that way instead of this way, and so this point of the tongue where we put our center of gravity in your posture, I can't say for sure in your exact language, but in a lot of postures, like in Spanish and Russian, to varying degrees, this spot of the tongue will be, say, maybe like here instead, because it's going to be pushed forward. Okay. So you're trying to take this point, push it back here so that it's more locked into place. And then here we were trying to push this open because a lot of languages, they'll pinch that in. So now this part of the throat is like this. So your tongue is like that and your throat is like that. So you're, right? So if we push this way and push this that way, now they're going to be more stacked on top of each other, where in your language, maybe these 2 points are more like this, right? They're at a little bit of an angle. And I'm giving just sort of a broad general description. This may or may not fit your language. It may not be that much of an angle. This is just a general idea. Okay. It's going to help make sure that you come down and back in the tongue, you open in the throat, and then they're roughly in line. Okay. It's just a little thing to try to make sure that like you're back enough, you're open enough in the throat. Hopefully that answers the question. That makes sense. If it doesn't, I'm not sure how else to explain it. I can try. Honestly, I do think I'm gonna have to go soon because my throat is actually getting sore. I can go for at least another 10 minutes. But the one thing I want to update about this, I might have mentioned this in the last live stream. I'm not sure. Based on that description, I don't think I did. The way that I was originally teaching this is that you want to push it out this way. And the reason why I was teaching it that way is because when I told people to do that, they sounded better. Upon further experience and exploration and experimentation and working with different people with different languages, what I came to realize is that we actually don't push this out. The middle, I was saying earlier, you want to push this out. You want to make sure it's nice and open. But the top here, like from like the 6 into like the top of the 10, you're not trying to push that out. All you want to do is make sure that you're not pinching in, because a lot of languages, they're going to push right there and pinch that in. And if you're doing that, it's not going to work very well. It's going to throw everything off. Okay. So it's more in this particular point, it's more about letting it open, letting it sort of not even pushing it this way, because actually the posture direction, we want to go this way. Okay. So it should actually be going like that, but around this corner here, you just want to make sure that you're not pushing like that. Okay. So it's coming down, it's sitting back like everything else, and then you're just not pushing like that. So you're not pushing from outside like that. We're not trying to go back from here. You're just sort of like letting it relax back. Like if you look up, gravity sort of pulls it back a bit. You just don't want to be pushing from the outside into this point here, like your language might be doing. Let it open and come down. Hopefully that makes sense. I know that could be a little confusing too, but I don't know if we have any other questions about that or anything else. I want to leave that open. Where am I going? Over here. Stop sharing. Just bring the chat back. Okay. Hashtag each other the best. Thank you so much. Not a problem. I know I'm the best. Right? No, I get that a lot. I will not be the best until I can sound like a girl. I know it's not exactly the same thing, but it's a very similar type of work, and I feel very frustrated and embarrassed that I can't make it work. I'm getting better. I'm getting closer. I'm not going to show you guys, but I am getting there. It's just a gigantic pain. And this is why puberty blockers are important. But that's a different topic, so we're not going to talk about that. Anyway, how do we keep tongue in relaxed position? Can it be slightly touching the bottom teeth? So for more detail, I'm going to recommend that you go check out the second half of the last live stream where I go over the 10-step posture process. I was kind of talking a bit about that just now to answer that other question. It's not about keeping the tongue in a relaxed position, because we do have shaping. We have a little bit of tension, a little bit of shaping. It's not like completely dead, right? Right? Like I can't say anything if I'm just like completely dead. So, but it's minimal tension, right? It's not like you're not super tight. Okay, you don't want too much tension. If you relaxing your tongue causes you to touch the bottom teeth, see, then you are pushed forward. Okay, because your teeth are wanting to go this way. If I relax, if I just say, I'm just in my posture. Again, I can put my tongue there, but I have to stretch it forward a bit. If I just relax, it feels like my teeth are here, my tongue is here. It's close to the teeth. It's not touching. It's kind of just floating a little bit. I can maybe feel a little bit almost around like the base here, kind of. It's very low. It's a little pulled back because my posture is this way, my back of tongue is this way, my throat is this way, everything's open, and that pulls the tongue back. It falls back into place. And so the front of the tongue, unless I stretch it, isn't going to touch those teeth. Okay. So that tells me that it feels relaxed to you because your posture pushing forward is what feels relaxed to you. Right. This is why we have to be careful of the word relaxed. Okay. This is why most teacher, when they say, hey, just relax. If you want to do the schwa sound, just relax. There's a lot of truth to that, but it's not the whole picture. Okay. Because your posture already feels relaxed. And if you just relax, you're not going to get the right result. There's more nuance to it than that. It's not that simple. Unfortunately, I wish it was. I try to make it as easy as I can for you guys, but anyway, is this even the same size? It looks the same size. Why is this one bigger? There's no way. I don't know. Sorry. Anything else while we're here? I don't do this very often, so if you have questions, now is the time to ask. Before my throat gives out. Oh God. Like a pain in here. Things. I completely forgot the linking exercise. We're going to talk about that. And then I'm going to leave. Oh God, this is going to take a minute. This is going to blow your guys' mind, as I said. Okay. That's why I took the 5 in the evening piece, because I was going to use that, and then we got lost in other stuff. Okay. At 5 in the evening, I saw a young man. We're going to use this in 2 pieces. And unfortunately, there is a little hiccup on one of these combinations that's a little advanced, but we're just going to move through it. That's fine. Doesn't matter. Okay. This is going to seem super counterintuitive to you guys. Now, I have lessons talking about linking. I have to have the 4 general rules video. I have the 4 big exceptions video. And all that I think is still very true. It's a very valid way to look at it. 90% of that information I still actively teach and say is very good. But what I'm going to show you right now is, I think, perhaps a little bit better version or better way to approach linking. That still follows a lot of the same stuff and is optimized to help you get the rhythm and the breath at the same time. Okay. So let's take at 5. Okay. At 5. The way that you would probably say that is at 5, right? You have at and then 5. So it would be kind of, if I were to transcribe it with the sounds, something sort of like this: at, and then we have a dash, and we have 5. So they're kind of like, we don't want to completely separate. We don't want to say like at 5. That's too much. That's too, why are we separating it? At 5. Okay, sure. That works. That flows. That sounds like you're enunciating. That works in an enunciated speech. That's not a problem. It's fine. It's good. It's great. It's not wrong at all. But it's not normal speech. Okay. Try this. Now, at first, we want to completely separate for practice. Okay. And you're going to see why, because it's good. You're going to be able to separate it and then speed it up. And you're going to be like, wow, this is amazing. Okay. Now, when I work with people live on this, sometimes I have to give them a little feedback before they get it just right. So I can't guarantee that you're going to do this right, but a lot of you will probably do it right the first time. So instead of saying at 5, I want you to say ah, there's a blank, and then you're going to say tf at the same time. It's not tf, it's tf, tf, because a lip sound and a tongue sound can overlap and be pronounced at the same time. This is not about linking rules. It's not about any special thing like this blends into that or anything like that. This is just basic link, and we're going to attach that to the breath and the rhythm. Okay, this is a new way to approach just basic level linking. In this particular case, we do get to overlap the tongue and the lips, and it's a little special. That's not why we're doing this. Okay, this is very, very basic. So, a 5, a 5, a 5. Okay, seems weird, but it's going to come together. Okay, if you speed that up, at 5, at 5, at 5, instead of at 5, at 5. They both sound good. The at 5 sounds enunciated. Sounds like we're trying to pull back a little bit from the next word just so that everything's clear, but we're still breathing through. We're still, we're not putting like a full separation there. At 5, that's fine. But if you link forward into the next word with something that I did talk about in a video, you want to fall forward into the next word. Then it's going to sound more a little bit. It's a subtle little shift. It almost doesn't seem like it matters, but it's the difference between sounding natural and not natural. You link that T forward at 5, at 5, at 5. Okay. Technically, there's no break between the A and the T, technically. But if you look at it this way and you try to practice it this way, you're going to sound more natural. Okay. What if we have 5 in? Most of you would probably say something like 5 in. Okay. And maybe the V might kind of be in the middle. Maybe you're kind of linking, but okay, whatever. You're like 5 in or something like that. Okay. Same thing. So we're going to say phi, then. Okay. So I want to hear then. That's important. It's like it's a separate word. Then. Phi, then. Phi, then. Phi, then. Phi, then. Phi, then. Phi, then. It might seem a little bit weird in isolation, but if I say at 5 in the morning, at 5 in the morning, I'm saying 5 in. I'm not saying 5 in. I'm saying 5 in. At 5 in the morning. Magic. Okay. So we have a, phi, then, a, phi, then. And it's important to start slow and separate them, because I've had plenty of students try to do this and they end up rushing and they can't get it right. You have to separate it first and then speed it up, because your brain wants to just do the normal words. Okay. A, phi, then. A, phi, then. At 5 in, at 5 in, at 5 in, at 5 in. Okay. Now, of course, you got to make sure your sound's right, your posture's right, whatever. That's separate from this, right? So can't do everything at once. And we're going to bring the breath into this as well. But you might start to notice that there's actually a little bit of a different rhythm to it. If I try to enunciate everything, but I'm still breathing through, I'm just speaking clearly, at 5 in, at 5 in, at 5 in. Okay. It almost sounds like it's a little hesitant. At 5 in the morning. It sounds clearer. It sounds authoritative. Like I'm reading a speech or something. At 5 in the morning, I saw a young man. Great. It has a certain tone to it. It has a certain rhythm to it. That's fine. You can use that. That's not normal speech. If you link forward, yes, you're welcome. If you link forward, at 5 in, at 5 in, at 5 in, at 5 in the morning, I saw a young man. You have a different rhythm. You have a more natural everyday speech rhythm, not an enunciation rhythm. And remember, we use enunciation as a tool. So if I wanted to emphasize or I wanted to slow down to clarify something, I say, no, it wasn't at 4 in the morning. It was at 5 in the morning. See, no, so I did at 5 in the morning. I can still link it like that. It still works even if I'm enunciating. That's the cool part. But it still sort of modifies the rhythm of it because I'm slowing it down. Okay. Or I can say at 5 in the morning, really emphasize the 5 part. Okay. So it's dynamic. If you want to slow it down and enunciate, you have things that you could do. It's not like you have to do exactly this. But if we're just talking about the basic rhythm and linking of speech, fall forward to the next word, fall forward in the next word, fall forward in the next word. Okay. It's like enunciated speech is walking, taking one step at a time. And then regular speech is, I don't want to say stumbling. That's maybe a bit too much, but you're kind of like, you're like jogging or you're running, like you're sprinting. Okay. Because you're leaning forward. You have forward momentum. You're trying to lean forward into that next step. Okay. And so we break off into the next word. Right. What if we do in and the? Okay. This is the unfortunate part that's a little advanced. So we're going to have in and the, in the, in the. That's nice if it's separate, right? In the. Now, if you keep it as a regular TH instead of using the dental D replacement, if you don't know what I'm talking about, look up my lesson about the truth about the TH sounds. But you can use the dental T and D replacement for the TH sounds. If you use a regular TH, you say in the, you can technically still kind of do a linking, but it's harder to do if you do a normal N here. You have to slide forward. That's good if you're trying to enunciate. You could technically do a dental N and then do a regular TH. That does work only because the next sound is a TH. Or you can do a dental N into a dental D. You have options, okay? For the sake of simplicity, I'm going to make it into a dental D. I'm going to say in the. Okay, so instead of the N being here, it's going to be here just because of that TH. That's the only time you can do that. In the. Okay, so how is this going to sound? It's not in the. It's going to be the. It's almost like they're happening at the same time. They can't happen at quite the same time, obviously. The. So the sound you're making isn't n or the, it's the. You're trying to like pack them both into one space. The. In the. Now you're linked. Phi. The. Go ahead and make that a dental D. I'll just put it in parentheses there. The. At five in 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 the. Pretty cool. Now I can handle that pretty easily at the faster speed because I just start talking normally. You guys are probably like stumble and maybe like accidentally not link it or get stuck in between, or all kinds of weird things can happen. That's fine. Just record yourself, listen to it. If you need help, you can sign up for classes. Or ask a native. They can probably help you too. But 5 in the morning or 5 in the evening, not the morning. I'm not even awake at 5 in the morning. Okay, so the evening. Now this is a weird one. Now, number one, some of you guys might not know, you don't have to say the evening just because the next sound is a vowel after the word the. That's an old rule. It still happens a lot in normal speech, but it's not something you have to do. There's no requirement. You can always say the every single time you say that word. Doesn't matter. We're going to keep it that way. We're going to make it simple. I'll give you both versions, but we're going to do the one. So if it's the evening, obviously it's hard to kind of like break the off of the th because then we just have what is that, right? So instead we're going to attach the e. It seems like it's going backwards, but that's just visual. Okay, we're going to break the e onto the We're going to say the, not the e, the. It's almost like a diphthong. It's not a diphthong, but it's almost like, again, you're trying to squeeze it into one space. The. And the e is a little longer because that's the stress syllable, so the is really tiny. The. Okay. If you want to keep the instead of the, then they're both e's, but one is stress, so you just sort of hold it longer and go higher in the pitch, basically. It's like the. Okay. I'm going to keep it as the. So we would get like the, and then V and N can overlap. The evening can have 3 syllables. Evening, that's one option. Or you can do 2 syllables. Evening. Okay. We're going to do it the simple way. And again, that ing, as I was mentioning earlier, it's an added ing, technically. And so you can say ing or you can say een. I'm going to do it the way I do it. If you want to do ing, you can, but I'm going to say vneen. Okay. So the evening, the evening, the evening, the evening. Okay. Tfi the sorry. I got to write it out because I can't keep track of it. Because my brain doesn't consciously parse it this way, but it comes out this way. The evening. Okay. So like that, right? Tfi the evening. Tfi the evening. At 5 in the evening. At 5 in the evening. Magic. Okay. Hopefully this is making sense with you guys. Let me know in the chat. Be like, this doesn't make any sense. This is a crazy lady. She doesn't know what you're talking about. Right? Okay. We will finish up with a young man. I saw a young man just because it's going to give us a little bit more things to see in there. And I will go over the two exceptions to this falling forward into the next word idea that I've discovered. I'm pretty sure there's only the two exceptions. In the roof of the tongue, the anchor, house framework again, it's really hard for me to get the balance of tension correct as I shift from backward of the tongue to forward in the throat. Okay. Okay. Anchor. Roof of the tongue. I don't know what roof of the tongue means. Like what the roof of that would just be like the top of the tongue. I don't get the balance of tension correct as I shift backward to forward in the throat. Well, okay. So the throat comes back and open. Okay. This is a subtle little thingy that I'm redoing because I didn't have a fine enough understanding of it before. You do want the middle to open, and you want this to not be pinched, so it's open in the sense that you're not pushing it in. But inside here, you want it to be open. You don't want it to be pushed forward. You just want it to be open. Okay, lots of space. Tagalog is my native language. Our center of gravity is the middle of the front. That makes sense. A lot of languages have center of gravity in the front. Yeah, I know it can be kind of confusing, but hopefully that helps. Okay, I'm gonna say I saw a young man. Okay, so here's a cool thing. This is something new that we haven't seen. I saw. Okay, most of you guys would say it this way. I saw. And you probably wouldn't put a space, so you say I saw. I saw. I saw. Now that sounds like you're saying I and then saw. Okay, good for enunciation. But in the flow of normal speech, now you might say like, okay, well, if I'm going to fall forward into the next word, then I have to kind of go like this. Just like I saw, right? And technically kind of that is the result that we get, but this is another case where we're actually going to visually link backwards because we don't want to hear I and then an S. We want to hear ice and then an ah. I saw, ice, ah, I saw. Okay. If you don't hear ice, you're not doing it right. I saw. Okay. Again, it's a subtle little thing, but it's a difference between sounding natural and not natural. To me, even for me as a native speaker, blows my mind how it creates this subtle little shift that just sounds better. So again, don't get confused by the visual. Sometimes visually it might look like we're linking backwards, but that's in this particular case, we can't do anything with the I except squish it into saw. So it's just a way to visually show it, right? That's fine. Like don't get caught in the visual. That's just an aid. We want to focus on the sound. Sounds like ice. Ah, I saw. Okay. The saw is still there. Obviously, we're not actually separating it, but we want to make sure the I is linked. That's the point. The I is linked into the S, so we hit ice. Sometimes it helps to represent that backwards rather than looking like it's going forwards. Okay, we have saw This literally, you just let the go into your basic posture. Saw. Don't even try to say like saw no, saw. You're just there in your easy. If you have basic posture, you should be able to do that pretty easily, right? So we get this would actually kind of be condensed into one thing. So the standard way that usually things are taught is like syllables are their own, like vowels are their own sort of little world, right? The vowel is the core of the syllable. That's still very true and everything. And we would like separate out along the syllables. What we're doing is actually we're kind of separating out along like the connections. And if we have a stress and unstressed syllable next to each other, they just sort of get squished together. Not that they're becoming one syllable necessarily, but they kind of are in a way. Saw, saw, saw. It's almost like a diphthong. Okay. You're linking forward into the next one. Okay. So ice, sorry, there's one too many S's there. Ice, I saw, ice, ice, I saw, I saw, I saw, I saw. That sounds more natural. Okay. A young, this one's weird. You're going to be like, how do I do this? I don't know. How about this? In the course, one of the linking things that, or the transition exercises we have for the Y sound. Yeah. It only exists between words. And this is an example of that. It actually helps us with our linking. It's not young, it's a young. A young. And then when I release that Y, we just fall into the a young, a young, a young, a young, a young. Okay. Ice, doesn't even look like English anymore. But if you do it, if you say that correctly, you will sound better. You will sound like you have the right rhythm. You will sound like you're linking correctly. Ice, young. Ice, ung. Ice, ung. I saw young. I saw young. I saw young. I saw young. Bam, natural speech. Now, the last one, young and man, this is where we get into exception territory. So if you have nasal plus nasal, if you have stop plus stop, or if you have the R, I haven't found any other exceptions yet. I don't think there are any, maybe. I haven't done this exercise with every possible combination of sounds. But these are the exceptions I found. So the nasal and the stop, that's kind of the same thing because the stops and the nasals are in the same spot. But if you're going young man, you could maybe say like, okay, I'm saying like young man. That's one way to look at it. I don't think it's wrong, but to me, it kind of makes more sense. Like we're going young, and then you can close the M and keep the NG. It's not going to change anything. Young, because the NG is back here. Okay. If I reverse that, it would make a problem because the NG would be going in and out and getting in the way. So you can go into the NG, close the lips, then drop the NG, and then the M's already there. Young. You can hear it switch. Young. Do that quickly. Young man, young man, young man. Okay. So they just kind of like bump up against each other. You can overlap the articulation points, but you can't necessarily like link it in the way that everything else is linking. At least it seems weird to me. If you had two stops, so if I say like it takes, sorry, it's supposed to be takes. It takes. Okay. What do you even like? Even we could either say, okay, we're going to keep a T. We're not going to reduce a stop it. We say it takes. Obviously, that's a separation. It takes. Okay. Let's say I stop the T. It takes. Okay. So what am I going to do? Am I going to say it takes? No. Am I going to say it aches? Maybe that might, but it's kind of like there's a stop in there, and it's it's going to be kind of broken anyway. We can't actually link the two stop sounds because of the nature of producing those sounds. It's a little weird. Okay. And then the R, so if I say, for example, like there were, well, let me make that simpler. There was, and we don't have to worry about two R's. Okay. So I feel like I kind of just go from like the into the into the W. Like it's almost like it's like a bridge. It's just like in between. There's like an and then there's an and then there's a W. It's almost like three separate sounds that just flow into each other. Air, air. Okay. Maybe going into other sounds, like if there's like a T, air to, I don't know, air, something like that. Maybe we can break it off, but there's going to be some cases around the R where it kind of just sounds like a bridge. And that's fine. The point is that regardless of how you want to try to visually break it up or think about it, you're falling forward into the next word. That's still happening, right? There was. Sounds like air, sounds like there was. Like it's a little rough, but we just keep going, right? Same thing, it takes. You have to physically stop that to produce a sound, but that's articulation. That's fine. We have two stops next to each other. I want to give you one example of a single stop, or two examples of a single stop, because this would throw you off. So if I say a tall, okay, was a tall person. This is a sentence fragment, but okay. So we get was a, obviously, right? And I'm doing that just so that the isn't alone, because it's going to help us here a little bit. So we get was a, and then tall. So you might think, okay, well, I should say like was a tall. Okay. But what if you tried to do this? Was remember, we only have a single stop sound here, not a double stop sound. What if you did something like this? Was keep it strong. It's not a weak T, it's still a strong T. Was it all? Was it all? Was it all? And then that breath from the T can help link into the ah. Was it all? Was it all? Was it all? Was it all? See, I'm not actually saying like was it tall? Was it tall? Was it tall? Was it tall? Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. I know that could be a little confusing. Same thing with person. Talp person. Talp person. Talp person. Talp person. Talp person. Okay. Obviously, when you speed it up enough, it just sounds like it's linked to the next thing also. That's our goal. We're not actually putting a break there. So that's why it can be confusing to some people, but you're just trying to make sure that the end of one word is connected to the next word. That's it. Right. There's no like little subtle break between the words. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to go because it's almost 3.5 hours. My throat is sore. I definitely need to eat. And yeah, I hope you all enjoyed the live stream. So I'll give just a few seconds here if anybody wants to say bye or any last minute things before I go. I submitted that. Yes, I did. Checking my Medium right now. I do still actively write on Medium. If you want to follow me there, you don't have to. I'm just saying. I post on Instagram. I don't make videos on TikTok or YouTube anymore for my trans stuff, but I do have a Medium blog where I talk about like trans issues and my life and things like that. So if you guys are at all interested in that, I'll just drop it. That way you don't have to look for it. Boo, boo, boo. Cat streams. So thank you. Have a good night. You are welcome. You too, whatever time it is. I don't know. Have a good night, good day. Anything else before I go? What are my notifications? Sorry. Responding to a comment. All right, guys. So I'm going to go. I hope you all have a great rest of the day or night or wherever it is where you are. And who knows when the next stream will be. But maybe it'll be sooner. I don't know. I can't guarantee that. But you can always sign up for classes as well. Don't forget there's the the price will be increasing at the end of the year. You can lock in 3 months at the current price if you sign up before the end of the year. So yeah, last call to get it as cheap as possible. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.